Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoruk.
Welcome to Friday. Welcome to the program. Welcome to game day. My gosh, this is since August. This is the longest I've gone without baseball. 3 days without baseball. 4, really. If you count Monday night to Friday night, it's like 4 days without baseball. It's funny how easy it is to pick up a habit. And then when you don't feed the habit, you go into a bit of withdrawal. I'm like, where's baseball? Where's baseball? You know, I'm grateful to be filling in for Mike today because it's 4 hours of my Friday where I wouldn't be pacing up and down in my living room waiting for the game to start, right? You know, 12 hours of pacing till I flip on Rogers Sportsnet is too much. So I'm happy to, and I hope we're a bit of a distraction for you as well. Although we're going to be talking baseball here and there, Blue Jays especially, throughout the show today. And then, you know, for me, yes, it's a couch night. It's a TV night. Unless I had tickets to the game, it's the way I prefer to watch the game. And I'm leading to something here, but I'm going to tell you, you know, maybe a couple family members over, but otherwise I'm quite content to watch the game by myself and cheer them on. But a lot of people, especially when it comes to games of this level, of this importance, they like the community aspect of watching the game in a place with a lot of other people. If you can't get tickets to the game, then you go to a watch party, and we've got a few of those going on. So, and it involves the Rangers in a manner of speaking. Well, first of all, in Galt, at the big screen at the square there, they're having a watch party tonight, so it'll be on the big screen there, which is kind of cool. Kitchener Public Libraries are hosting watch parties, so that's pretty cool as well. Also, so the Rangers tonight, and Mike is away. He was hosting a symposium yesterday, and he's taken the show day off today, but he'll be around for the Rangers game tonight, Mike Farwell. So there's the game tonight against Flint, but then, as you've been hearing, the Rangers got this, you know, three game weekend going on. They play tonight at the Odd, and then tomorrow they're in Barrie, and then back home on Sunday night for North Bay. So tonight they're in the Odd. But tomorrow night, since they're in Barrie, the Odd is going to be hosting a watch party for Game 2 of the Blue Jays. So there's Game 2. As far as Game 1 goes, well, I mentioned some of the watch parties that are going on. I know in Toronto they're having a watch party, and they're doing it at Nathan Phillips Square. I don't know why they wouldn't do the Leafs Raptors area, whatever the Jurassic Park and whatever they used to call the Leafs zone when they had. Now I know it's a different stadium, it's the hockey arena, but they do have the big screen there, and they do have the square available for large amounts of people. Not sure why they wouldn't do that. Doesn't matter. We got a watch party going on in Cambridge, and you know, like I said, the library and the Odd tomorrow. In Toronto, they're having one at Nathan Phillips Square, and I mentioned that because later on in the show today, we're going to be talking about economic benefits of sporting events, specifically the Blue Jays. And I don't know that the stats are out yet for what the economic benefit is of these games against the Yankees and then Seattle, but they have estimated. And we'll check with our guest. He's a marketing expert, and that'll be in 12 o'clock, around 12 o'clock today. But anyway, they estimated that the last year's series between New York and LA, so that's big markets, right? That's Yankees and Dodgers, that the economic benefit to the city per game was something like $43 million. Does that sound incredible? Given New York and LA, I actually thought that sounded a little small, frankly, but it's not. It's a huge amount of money suddenly for a game. It's just one game that suddenly adds $43 million to the economy. How is that possible? It's one of the things we're going to be talking about at noon today on the program, is this incredible economic benefit that these kinds of things can bring to a city, So I don't know what it'll be, but, and of course it's the obvious things like hotels and bars and restaurants. People got to pay for parking and things like that if you're crazy enough to try and drive to a game in Toronto. But nevertheless, all of those things. And then when you add a watch party somewhere else, like in Toronto, Nathan Phillips Square, there'll be an economic benefit to that too, because it's more people out and some of them are going to be spending money. Same thing in the region here, where you have the watch party in Cambridge. People are going to be out. They're going to want to buy something to eat. They're going to buy something to drink. They're going to spend money here or there. They're going to take transit. They're going to all that. All that is money that would not have been spent if there had not been a game. So all that gets totaled in, and it ends up being millions of dollars. And actually, we're going to touch on that here in a few minutes too, because in about 10 minutes' time, we're going to speak to Alistair Scorgie. He is director of sport hosting, Explore Waterloo region, and we're going to talk slightly about that. But this is about the Summer Games, the Ontario Summer Games that were awarded to the region yesterday by Ontario Sports Minister Neil Lumsden, and what the economic benefit of that is. Now, we've hosted games before. A couple of years ago, was it 24? Special Olympics back in 2002. There was the Summer Games, previous hosts then, and haven't hosted the Ontario Summer Games since. But we will do next year, 2026. We're going to talk about economic benefits of that vis-a-vis, something like the Jays, for example, because the Jays, as Canada's team, I mean, we feel it more here because we're a stone's throw from the game, and we can take the train to the game, and we can drive to the games over the course of a year. If you're in Saskatoon or in Halifax, not as much, right? But it's become Canada's team, and they're cheering on the team. We feel it more directly here because, again, just simply proximity. So economic benefits of that, economic benefits of hosting sporting events. Next year, the 2026 Summer Games coming to the region, and we'll speak to Explore Waterloo about that. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. I know there's a lot of Jays energy going on, and certainly that's it. But I want to talk about those Summer Games coming to the region, and we'll do that with our guest in about 10 minutes time, a little less than 10 minutes time. Hey, by the way, also on today's show, we're going to talk to Porchlight. Porchlight is this wonderful organization. They are officially known as Porchlight Counseling and Addiction Services. And there's Porchlight groups worldwide. And I think worldwide, Porchlight is seeing some funding cuts. But specifically in Waterloo region, they're seeing cuts from the region, funding cuts. And so they're turning to the public to say, hey, this is what we do, and this is why it's important. And if we don't get these funds, this is who it affects. This is how it affects them, So we're going to speak to somebody from Porchlight coming up on the show this morning to talk about funding cuts to Porchlight and what that means exactly. Also, this is a great story. Over at the Central Presbyterian Church in Galt's on Queen there, they had a visitor recently. And it was a woman who, I believe not from the region, who was shopping at a Value Village and picked up an interesting book. Now, I'm already interested in this story just on that because I'm kind of a Value Village thrift store guy. Not as much as I used to be. But man, I was, at some point I said to myself, I got to cut back. I'm just buying too many things at Value Village. And my stuff at Value Village is, I bought some vintage T-shirts and stuff. I've looked at furniture there, things like that. I'm mostly into the books and the knickknacks, the tchotchkes, the little, oh, this is a nice vase. Do you need a vase? No, not really, but look at this cool little vase. I'm going to buy this, And I always, when I buy some cool things, at Value Village, I always wonder about their story, right? And it's not that I've ever found anything of terrific value or anything, or who knows, maybe a couple of things I have some dollar value. That's not really why I buy it. Although if I came across, a priceless Monet for $2, I would be excited. But mostly I like buying the little stuff, right? And some of the really cool little things that I have, and a couple of them I still keep in my bookcase here and around, I always wonder where they came from, why somebody gave this up, what was the importance of it. I went to an estate sale in my building once, and I love those as well. And the woman who was moving out, elderly woman, was moving into a sort of a community situation home, and I picked up this little vase, and I was like, boy, this is nice. And she came over and told me the story of when she and her sister, and this woman's 80s, and her and her sister were in their late teens, early 20s, somewhere in there, and they went to Europe, and they ended up in Venice, and she saw this vase in Venice, and she wanted it, and she didn't, and then the next day they went back and she bought it because she decided she really wanted it, and how it was so fragile, and she wrapped it up, and how she carried it on the plane. She wouldn't put it in her luggage, and just this great memory of her and her, and just that itself, that memory of her and her sister that, and she shared that story. So I have this vase still, and I have the story of it. I digress. This woman at Value Village finds a book, and it turns out the book is a handwritten journal. And it's a handwritten journal by the very first minister of Central Presbyterian Church in Cambridge, and it goes back well over 100 years. There's an entry in the book from 1867, when Canada passed the British North American Act to become a nation. It's kind of 1867, the birth of our nation. And there's an entry there from James Dixon. He was the first pastor of that church. And this woman says this book, she finds this book at a Value Village and drives the 2 hours to Cambridge to return the book. Says this book belongs at the church. Isn't that a great story? The book belongs at the church. What a very benevolent thing to do. I just love the story. So we're gonna speak this morning with Ingrid Talkback. She is a member at the Presbyterian Church, and was there when the book was brought in. And we're gonna share some of her thoughts and stories and about this. Can you imagine finding this handwritten journal from the pastor? And one of the things they said they noticed that, because it's a journal, kind of like a diary in some aspects, that many of the thoughts and concerns of the minister of the day would be thoughts and concerns that we would have today. In other words, it's amazing how things change and how things stay the same. I guess that's not quite the old saying, but you know what I mean. So we'll have that discussion coming up 10 o'clock this morning. Stick around for that. 10:30 this morning, Mike Farwell will be here with the Coaches Show. He'll be talking to UC Ohokis about tonight's game, and actually the whole weekend. As I said, it's a big weekend for the Rangers. Tonight hosting Flint, tomorrow in Barrie, then hosting North Bay on Sunday night. So the Coaches Show coming up. It's Friday, so we'll be having our Friday 4 panel. Philip Mills is here, Tom Galloway, Marjorie Ann Knight will be here with me on the 4 panel, and we'll discuss some of the top stories of the week. I think the Carney speech and trade with the U.S. notwithstanding, that'll be one of our topics. And I'll bet, well, I know this, but I'll bet anyway, because I have the list. But we're going to talk a little Blue Jays as well with our panel as well, because a lot of us have the fever. And speaking of the Blue Jays, as I mentioned before, as I alluded to at the beginning of the program, coming up in our 12 o'clock Talkback Hour, just before we take all your calls on Talkback, we're going to talk about the economic benefits of the World Series, not only to, well, mainly Toronto, yes, because they would receive the bulk of the benefits. But for us, anyone now in the general viewing area, you know what I mean? It's not, as I mentioned, Saskatoon, Halifax, yeah, they're cheering on, and it's Canada's team, but we're a long home run away from the field. We're closer, and we get the economic benefits as well. I mean, the Odd is hosting a viewing party for Game 2 tomorrow night. You don't think there's an economic benefit there to Kitchener just to have that going on? Of course there is. So we'll talk about that with a guy, the data judge. They're a research and consultancy company specializing in the business side of sports and entertainment. So we'll get that expertise coming up. Next on the show, speaking of economic benefits, not only Jays, but sporting events in general, we are hosting the 2026 Ontario Summer Games. We're a year away, and Alistair Scorgie is Director of Sport Hosting with Explore Waterloo Region. He joins us next to talk about that. This is 570 News Radio. Yeah, the Blue Jays taking up a lot of oxygen, and I think that's fine with a lot of people. It's been a while, so a lot of focus on the Blue Jays World Series, Game 1 tonight. However, there are other things going on, and this is actually pretty good news, and it's official now. The region is hosting the 2026 Ontario Summer Games. And we can talk about economic benefits as well of that with our guest, but I want to find out more about the setup here. Alistair Scorgie is Director of Sports Hosting for Explore Waterloo Region. Joins us now. Good morning, Alistair.
Morning, Larry.
Well, this is pretty good news. Tell me how the process works. Do you kind of know we're getting it before the announcement, or are we like waiting for the announcement like the Olympics, who's going to get it?
We know a little bit before the announcement happens, so we're not completely caught off guard and by surprise. And obviously there's a lot of work that goes into building the bid to secure the games. So we had a pretty good idea that it was coming, but it's always a relief when it becomes public, for sure.
So now, because of that, I imagine a lot of preparation was already underway, but I imagine it begins now to be ready for next summer.
Oh, it began, if you want to go back to when it began, it would have been fall of 2024 that we really started the work. And it's a big project. It's a long road to be ready. So it's really, for a lot of people, become the primary focus of their work right now. And just a lot of ground to cover. We've got 23 sports that we need to get ready to host. Probably about 30 plus venues that are going to host those sports. We've got to house everyone. So it's pretty busy, even though it's still 10 months away at this point.
So Explore Waterloo Region is hosting this, at the head of this, because really it is a partnership. I mean, universities, et cetera, a lot of people involved in a partnership to get this done.
Yeah, so it's definitely a collaborative effort, and that was the only way an event like this could happen in Waterloo Region. We needed tourism to definitely be a part in leading the bid and overseeing the delivery of the games, but we can't do it without our municipal partners. They operate, most of the sport facilities in the region are city or township owned and operated, and then the universities and Conestoga College as well have stepped up, and they're going to play a role in the sport footprint. So when you put it all together, it's 8, 9, 10 different municipalities and entities that are going to make this happen. But that lets us showcase the whole community. Like, when the games are here, you're going to see all of Waterloo Region. You're not just going to be in one part. You're going to see Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, townships. You kind of get the full Waterloo Region experience.
And you mentioned the events. You said 30 or so. And this is parallel to, say, an Olympic Games. I mean, in the types of events that we'll be seeing, right?
Kind of. So 23 sports. 23 sport disciplines that'll be competing, and that will involve 4,200 participants across those sports. number of venues is a little higher, so not 100% sure how much it'll be, somewhere over 30. And a good example of that is like softball and baseball that will need 4 or 5 diamonds each to run their tournaments. So it is somewhat comparable to the Olympics, but it's short and it's fast. It's only a 4-day competition. It's not weeks long like some of the Olympic Games. And then the other difference is some of the sports are a little different. So we actually have men's and women's ice hockey at the Ontario Summer Games because they like doing their event in the summer, and that way it doesn't disrupt the hockey season. So there's a couple odd ones that will be a bit of a surprise.
We were talking about economic benefit of the Jays series to especially Toronto, but even outside of Toronto right now. There's a great economic benefit. Perhaps that's not the priority thought right now, but there's a great economic benefit to hosting these games, isn't there?
Yeah, and the games are a little different in how the economic activity works. So for the World Series, 100%, Toronto is going to be reaping the benefits of that. It's probably very similar to when Taylor Swift rolled through town earlier this year. Just the critical mass of people that are spending money in the community. And you're right, like we even see it out in Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge. Bars and restaurants are busier the nights the Jays are playing. There's watch parties tonight. I think I saw a watch party at the Odd, watch party at the Kitchener Public Library. So even with the event not happening here, people are going out, they're spending money, they're socializing, and that's good for local business. So that's the World Series, and comparatively, the Summer Games, really the economic impact comes from the visitors. So with 4,000 plus participants and their families and friends, we see a lot of business for local hotels, and that also keeps restaurants and retail and local attractions busy when we have that many people in the community. So it manifests in different ways, but I'm sure for a lot of businesses right now, coming out of the summer, it's a bit of a downturn in the fall, back to school, the weather's not great. Having your restaurant busy because the Jays are in the World Series isn't such a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. It strikes me, too, that the event being 4 days, the Summer Games being 4 days, is almost a bigger challenge than having a 10-day, 2-week thing. Because you really got to get it all in 4 days, be efficient, get them in and out. Wow, that's a challenge.
Yeah, I think that the two things that we're very conscious of with that, one is the things you can't control that could affect the game. So weather is the big one. If you got a really rainy weekend, and we saw this in 2024 in London, they got some pretty heavy rain. So, that affects baseball and softball and, some of the outdoor sports. And you don't have a lot of wiggle room or flexibility to adjust the schedules. So you do your best with alternate spaces and you cross your fingers and hope the weather is good. And then the other element is you also don't have a lot of time to fix things. So you really got to make sure you get things right on the first day and that everything's working well, that, the buses are going to the right places and food is being delivered and the officials are where they're supposed to be, because you don't have a lot of time to catch up. So that's why we're doing the work now to get ready is we need to, get it right, right out of the gate, and kind of blink and you miss it before it's over. So that's what all the prep is for.
Well, go, Alistair, go, and all your teams that are going to be preparing for this. I'm sure we'll talk to you many times between the now and the games. So thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Larry.
Alistair Scorgie is Director of Sports Hosting for Explore Waterloo Region. Yes, next summer, it's the 2026 Ontario Summer Games in the region. This is 570 News Radio.
Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoruk.
Stick around. Coming up at 10 o'clock this morning, a wonderful story of a woman shopping in Value Village, finding a handwritten journal from the Central Presbyterian Church in Cambridge. Goes back about 150 years, goes back to the original, very first minister of that church. She dutifully returned the book to the church. We'll speak to a member of that congregation about getting that book and what's in it. That's coming up at 10 o'clock this morning. Right now on the program, the people at Porchlight, which is Porchlight Counseling and Addiction Services, are reaching out to the public after funding cuts affect many of their programs. Joining us, the executive director of Porchlight Counseling and Addiction Services is Cameron Dearlove. Cameron, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. As I was researching this story, I was the first thing that popped up was that Canada, UK Porchlight Services seeing funding cuts, and I don't know if this is part of a larger problem that Porchlight is facing, or specifically the Waterloo region is cutting some funding to Porchlight. Correct?
So no, I'll clarify that.
Okay.
So Porchlight Counseling and Addiction Services. So we're an organization. We serve primarily Cambridge and North Dumfries. So we've been in the community for 85 years, and have evolved over those years to provide all kinds of different supports. Of course, our focus right now is mental health, addictions, and housing and homelessness. And so we have a program called Taming the Dragon, which we've been delivering for years. And over the past 2 years, we've expanded it quite a bit. And basically what the program is we go into elementary schools. So whether it's grades 1 through 8, obviously the curriculum's a little bit different depending on the ages. And we talk to kids about anxiety and depression. Because, if anybody has kids in school these days, this is a pretty major issue. And a lot of times, kids don't get the language about how to talk about it. They're not sure who to talk to about it. Oftentimes they might not even recognize what it is that they're feeling. Sometimes anxiety will manifest in the body, right? And we'll feel it. But I know certainly talking to kids, they'll say, well, but anxiety's in the head, right? And you say, yes, but, right, you feel it in different ways. And once you can recognize it and talk about it, then maybe you can, work towards getting some support for it. And that's sort of the idea behind the program, is that we help kids, be able to recognize and name their emotions, talk about healthy ways to deal with them, and then who do you talk to if you need support, or if one of your friends in your class is struggling a little bit, what does that look like, and how do you support them? So the program, it's really about giving kids the tools, the language, the understanding of mental health these days, and how they can go about getting any kind of support that they might need. So it's a really beautiful program. We've, as I said, we expanded it in the past 2 years. We had funding from a local foundation for the past 2 years that allowed us to grow the program. So we delivered it to over 2,600 kids in public schools in Waterloo region. So that's 52 different schools in the last 2 years. And we have a 100% teacher recommendation rate, so that the teachers really appreciated that kind of support, because they're dealing with a lot of different things, and then to have somebody be able to come in and hopefully give the kids the tools that they need to deal with these issues. Now, unfortunately, the foundation that was supporting it, they didn't open up their grants this year, and so so suddenly we realized, okay, we're going to have a funding gap here, mm-hmm. and we're just not sure how we fill it. And so we've just been reaching out to the community. It's one of these programs that if we can get the funding, we can expand it, we can bring it back. We'll be in schools. Just how will we be at 52 in 2 years? Probably not, right? So, so we're seeing some cuts to the programs, and which is something that basically every nonprofit in the region is dealing with right now. It's a tough funding environment. Fundraising dollars are down, and we saw even just this week, right? House of Friendship announced closure of their mm-hmm. Christmas program. Kids Abilities cutting back on services. So even large organizations as well. Everybody's feeling the pinch.
Now, I was looking at the various services, and I was looking at Taming the Dragon because it is fascinating to me. Will it affect other services across the board, or is it really Taming the Dragon is going to take the hit here mostly?
Well, this is one that it's a program that we just don't have any other funders for, and
I see. Okay.
We can't, so we're hoping, we're reaching out to the community. We're applying for different grants. We believe it's an important one because, oftentimes, when we're doing social services work, right, it's downstream, right? People have, experienced some challenges, for example, with our counseling, right? We do a lot of trauma counseling, for example. And so of course that's, after things have happened. And this is a preventative program, and oftentimes it's hard to find supports for preventative programs because it's sometimes difficult to say, well, here's what the result is, because maybe we prevented some bad things from happening. And so, that's one of the challenges with this sort of program. But across the board, we're facing challenges with funding, particularly in our counseling programs. A few years ago, we could write a grant and get some funding for mental health. Few years after the pandemic, it seems to be a lot harder. Certainly in our case, we're not seeing any decline in demand.
Well, there is that as well, right? And I was thinking the word proactive really jumped into my head when you were explaining the program, because that you do provide counseling services, but this is going in ahead of time, which is
Exactly.
very commendable. Very commendable. And by the way, I was thinking of something as you were talking. Have you ever seen the TED Talk "Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers"?
No, but this sounds good.
Look it up. I'm blanking on the professor's name. He's a biologist and he's a research brain expert, and he talks about the various things that happen to a body that we're wired into when we have times of stress and anxiety.
Right.
Which is what your very thing was saying about. And I'm not saying that you would explain this to kids necessarily, but there's so much that goes on in our body that we're hardwired to do, that our body, when we're going through times of stress. And you're right. At times we don't even know it until we see symptoms and we're not feeling well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like that. Maybe we'll add that to the program. Yeah.
Yeah. It's super fascinating, guys. Yeah. The guy's really good. So you're reaching out to the public. You don't have any fundraisers planned or anything like that, or just in general, you're saying if you can help out, please help.
Yeah, just in general saying, if you can help out, we do have fundraising events throughout the year, but, for example, we have a big walk in May, Cambridge Moves for Mental Health. And so that's one that, again, we're, of course we fundraise. And so we're going to be dedicating, those fundraising dollars to the program. But certainly inviting the community to support that. And so, on our website, porchlightcnd.org, we're taking donations, and there's lots more information about the program there as well.
Well, I recommend people visit the website, and it's give me the website again, Porchlight.
Porchlightcnd.org. CND, Cambridge North Dumfries.
All the best. I really hope this comes through, because it's a great program, Tame the Dragon. Everything you do is really great and helpful and beneficial, but this especially caught my eye. So good luck to you. Thank you very much, Cameron.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And so we welcome the community support, and thanks very much for having us on.
All right. You bet. Cameron Dearlove is Executive Director of Porchlight Counseling and Addiction Services. And one of the things that I looked at right away was Taming the Dragon when I saw there, and I was like, okay, this is fascinating to me for the very reasons we talked about. It's preemptive, it's proactive, it's talking to kids, especially kids who may not be able to translate and understand. Well, a lot of us can't. Really, stress and anxiety is just it's multi-layered, it's complicated, and it can be very hurtful. But maybe kids don't even understand what's happening to them. So to have people come in and talk to kids in their language about these kinds of things, stress and anxiety, it just probably saves a lot of heartache and headache over the years. Porchlight is who you want to look up and find out and help if you can. More in a moment. This is 570 News Radio. Be right back.
Across the board, we're facing challenges with funding, particularly in our counseling programs. A few years ago, we could write a grant and get some funding for mental health. A few years after the pandemic, it seems to be a lot harder. And, certainly in our case, we're not seeing any decline in demand.
That was my guest moments ago. I'm Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell today, and we just spoke with Cameron Dearlove. He is the executive director of Porchlight Counseling and Addiction Services. And this proactive program that they have is called Taming the Dragon, where they go into schools and they talk to young kids in their language about stress and anxiety and is it happening, how to recognize it, what to do. As he said, there's some funding cuts they're facing, and they're just generally reaching out to the public and say, if you can help the Taming the Dragon program and Porchlight in general, it would be extremely beneficial at this time. And by the way, the reference that I made to Cameron, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, it's a book, but you can also find it on YouTube as a lecture. I think it's a TED Talk, but it is definitely a lecture. And the guy's name is Robert Sapolsky. I couldn't come up with Sapolsky there. I don't know why. But anyways, Robert Sapolsky, he's a professor of biology and neuroscience. Like, this guy's a genius. He looks like he should be the bass player for the Grateful Dead. He's got that going too. So he's kind of this California hippie looking dude in his 60s or whatever. But just big brain, smart guy, And he really explains what happens to us when we go through physically, what goes through our bodies when we are in periods of stress. And he uses the example of zebras. When a zebra is attacked by a lion, that's a reason to have stress. And here's what happens in the zebra's body to react to being attacked by a lion. We're not being attacked by lions, but our bodies are going through all these changes because we're going through the same kinds of stress levels, and things happen to us that just not healthy. But anyway, here's Johan. Johan, is it? Go ahead.
Morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Well, I wake up every morning and I wonder how that happens, because January 7th, I was in KW Hospital, and they cut off my left leg. I didn't know why.
Whoa.
Then
Okay.
I got transferred to the rehab hospital out at Freeport, and they had a Let's Go Home program where I went home February 20th, but I still didn't have a leg to stand on. They have this old wheelchair, rickety old wheelchair to use to get home. But then the person who wanted me to use the rickety old wheelchair wanted it back. So I had to go back to the rehab hospital, and I bought another one, a brand new one, for $400. And then I was using that, and then suddenly one of the people who are part of the Let's Go Home program came with someone with a better wheelchair. Now, it was $3,000, so that one I bought because it was a lot better, and it's just more like a lounge chair than a real wheelchair.
Right. I assume these wheelchairs for $3,000 are electric. You drive them around. You don't.
Nope. I don't want an electric one because it makes you lazy, and then I want to walk again. So I had to get a artificial leg, and it was $10,000, more or less.
Wow.
The government of Ontario paid about $3,500. War Amps paid $1,000, and then the rest I had to come up with. And I found out about a year and a half ago, War Amps would have covered everything but $700. So I don't know what happened a year and a half ago, but I'm just on a government pension, CPP, OEC, GIC.
Right.
So I needed a artificial leg. So I managed to get some credit, and I bought it, but I got to pay them back, right?
So you have the leg now? Is that the deal?
I do have the leg, and I go to rehab out at Freeport every Tuesday, Thursday right now. But I got a lot more debt than I had before I was handicapped.
Yeah, imagine. Wow, yeah. But I'm curious about the leg. So you're up and around on it?
Sometimes I gotta wait for my skin to toughen up, get scars or whatever, so that it doesn't rub against it and get reinfected. They got a program.
Right.
But I found a better way. I found if I slipped the sock over my stump and then put the bladder on, I never have a problem.
There you go.
Yeah,
Wow.
but that doesn't work in our system because you got to be able to make hard skin. So when you walk around with it all the time, it doesn't open up and cause a wound, and then they have to make sure you don't get an infection or whatever. It's a lot of money being unhealthy when you're older and on a pension plan. I mean, it's almost it's not impossible. I mean, if you can get credit, you're all right. But you got to pay the credit back, right?
For sure, with interest. Yeah, there's that.
But I just wonder if I didn't pay the credit people back, what are they going to do? Repossess my prosthetic leg?
Boy, that seems like
what are they
impossible
going to
to think. But wow, yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, that was Johan, and he ended the phone call there. We didn't, by the way. I think he just either got disconnected or just finished his story. But unexpected story. But wow, what a story to hear. Here's John. John, go ahead. You're on 570 News Radio.
I will be brief, Larry. Lost a leg. The prosthetic leg was $70,000. The manual wheelchair was $6,000. Have a great day.
Oh, wow. I knew a guy who started out just as a listener to my radio show when I was on in Niagara region, and used to come out to some of our public events and stuff. So just knew him through that. Fan of the show. Involved in an accident, and both his legs just below the knee. Was it just at the knee? Or just below the knee? I think maybe just at the knee. Nevertheless, we stayed in touch, and he was in the local papers, and he was always on our show talking about the loss of limbs. And I was reminded by Johan's story of that very issue of it's kind of almost gross to hear, honestly, but it's a reality that they have to face, where you have to develop a good stump, basically, before you can wear a prosthetic, before you can have this prosthetic. And this guy was going through all of it, with never mind the trauma, the mental, the expense, everything that comes with that, but just the physical part of it, of having to develop the stump in order to have a prosthetic. Wow. Amazing story. All the best to Johan. Sir, thanks for calling with that story, and all the best to you. Still to come on the program, we're going to be talking Friday 4 panel between 11 and noon. The Coaches Show is coming up with Mike Farwell. He's talking to the head coach, UC Hocus, and we'll hear that after 10:30 this morning. And next on the program, I've already talked about this, but I'm excited to hear more about this story. A woman in Value Village, shopping at a Value Village, finds an old book, buys it. As she takes it home and reads it, she realizes it's a handwritten journal from 100 and 150 years ago that belonged to the Central Presbyterian Church. It belonged to the very first minister of that church, a guy named James Dixon. The woman returns it to the church in Cambridge as a gift, said this belongs to the church. And a member of that congregation, Ingrid, is going to join us after 10 o'clock this morning to share the story and share some of the things they saw in that book, some of the handwritten entries in the journal from like the early 1900s and actually going back to like 1867 even. That's coming up next. This is 570 News Radio.
Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoruk.
Mike off yesterday and today. Of course, he will be around, as you just heard Mark say, for tonight's Rangers game, doing the play-by-play there. It's 3 games this weekend, tonight at the Odd, tomorrow in Barrie, and then hosting North Bay on Sunday, and Mike Farwell will be around for those games and also for the Coaches Show, which is a regular Friday morning feature here on the Mike Farwell Show. So Mike will host that, talking to the coach, coming up just after 10:30 this morning. It's our Friday 4 panel between 11 and noon, so stick around for that. This is a story that really speaks to me as a shopper of thrift stores. A woman at a Value Village finds an interesting book that she buys. Turns out it's a handwritten journal, and it's very, very old and very historic. It was a journal that belonged to James Dixon, who was the very first ever pastor at Central Presbyterian Church on Queen in Galt, in Cambridge. And a member of that parish is joining us now, Ingrid Talkback. Good morning, Ingrid.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
First of all, not even a question, but just a wow. This is a wow, isn't it?
This was more than a wow. This was like a jaw-dropping moment.
So who is this woman? Is she didn't find the book in the region per se, did she?
No. So this is the mystery. So it was October 7th. The church was full of volunteers. We're all running around doing different things. And the secretary got a phone call from a woman saying, I've been traveling for 2 hours. I'm coming into Cambridge. I have a book that I want to return there. And I think she might have even said old book. And at the time, nobody really thought anything of it because we have hymn books returned and Bibles and things like this. So it wasn't anything on the radar that was going to be exciting or interesting. And like I said, very busy day. She comes in. I don't even know if she introduced herself, but she dropped off the book and said something to the fact of, I found this in a Value Village, and then basically left. So, okay, interesting, fine. And then the church secretary looked at it and realized it was a handwritten diary. Now, we're not talking a small book either. The book is about 13 inches by 8 inches across and about 2.5 inches thick. And she opens it up and she's reading it a little bit, and then she realizes, holy moly, this is a journal. And I happened to be in the other room, and she brought it to me, and I'm flipping through it, and we all realized this is the journal of the first minister. So it was an incredible moment.
James Dixon, Dicksen, first minister. How far back does it go? I understand one of the entries was in 1867, the year of the BNA Act and Canada becoming a country.
Okay, so what it is that he starts the journal as a memoirs, and he's writing about coming to Canada in 1857. And so it's kind of switching back and forth between being his memoir and being a diary. But also in there's all these different letters from different times. And there is a letter in there from 1867. And oddly enough, it's talking about currency. And it's a small little ledger saying that he's received $6 in silver and then $16 in Canadian currency. And then it goes on saying, well, the price of silver is going up and down, so this might be at par at this time. And I thought, that's a really weird thing to put in there. So when I did a quick little bit of research, I found out at that time Canada was very short in currency. And we were accepting silver coinage from everywhere in the world. So silver coins from America, from Spain, from Italy, from France were all used as our currency as well.
Well, and that was interesting to me because the reason it's called pound sterling is before the gold standard, and the UK and most of the world the standard was silver.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
Yeah.
And Canada at that time was moving to be a decimated. I don't know if that's the right word. So everything worked out to be in 100. So a penny, 5 cents, 10 cents, etc. Right. And James Dixon traveled to this country from, I believe it was Scotland. Is that correct? Yes, so he was born in Scotland. He arrived in the journal. He's saying how he arrived in Quebec. Now, when he arrived, we weren't Canada yet. We were the province of Canada. And then, of course, we became Canada in 1867. And we had just moved from being Upper and Lower Canada. So he talks a little bit about that, and then I think he ended from there to Toronto and then from London, Ontario. So he was bouncing around a little bit before he ended up in Galt.
Was there any, or is there any history of, like, you can look up James Dixon and say, oh yeah, he was our first minister? Did anybody know this ahead of time, or did you discover all this through the journal?
No, he was very well known because he was our minister for almost, I think it was 35 years.
Wow.
And so the church started in 1880. The church building started in 1880. The church building was finished in 1882. And he became the minister of the congregation, I believe, in 1879. So even before the church was built, he was our minister.
But yet entries in his journal, in his diary, memoir, even predating that, as you just said. So that's fascinating.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And he lived up until, I think, 1915, age 75.
That's right, yeah. And he was...
Which for its time is a pretty good lifespan.
It was a really good lifetime. And he also had, 9 children, which was actually more something about his wife being an amazing woman.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Those were the times. There's 10 on my father's side. There's 8, I think, on my mother's side. So that's what you did, I think. I don't know. Those are different times. 9 children. So that would be interesting to you. First of all, I have many questions. That's why I'm jumping all around here. But so he would have descendants, I would think, around that might be interested in the book as well.
I'm sure it is. And again, this has been so sudden. We've been running around trying to figure things out. First off, desperate to find the woman that actually dropped off the book and find more information from her. And luckily enough, yesterday I did get a contact and a name. So I'll be looking into that. There was a letter in the journal, a typewritten letter in the journal, saying that the journal had been lent to a regional library for microfilming in 1979. And then there's another woman's name there that I don't recognize at all. So I think I know which regional library it was sent to, and I know for a fact it was not the Waterloo Regional Library because that did not exist in 1979. So wow. I'm trying to pull together all these little parts so I have a better timeline of how did this leave Galt and who had it and what was going on. And so I'm a little bit of a Nancy Drew right now.
I was going to say that this is some great sleuthing you're doing so far, and more to come. Obviously, this must be fascinating, though, for you to do. It
is fascinating. I'm loving reading through it. The cursive is beautiful. His handwriting was spectacular. Unfortunately, I think he might have been a pipe smoker because the smell of the book is very strong of pipe smoke. So, and when I'm reading it, I've got my nose to the page because I'm really trying to read this stuff very well. I can only read it for about 5-10 minutes at a time, and then I have to take a break because the smell is a little bit overwhelming.
Is that right? Because books have a smell, but I guess not necessarily pipe smoke.
Yeah, it's definitely pipe smoke because somebody else noticed it right away as well.
Wow. And this name and number that you found, I don't expect you to share it, but you think this is the woman that delivered this to the church?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So you've yet to talk to her.
Well, I want to keep her privacy because I don't know if she wants this to be an anonymous donation or if she's like, yeah, tell everybody it was me. So I'm just going to wait and see on that.
Yeah. And to find out how it ended up, if she was driving for 2 hours, how it ended up in a Value Village 2 hours away. I mean, it's not like it's a local thrift store.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Wow. So I'm very much, I believe that things like this should not be gatekeeped. We have to be careful about who looks at it. I've already taken it over to the City of Cambridge Archives for Dan Schmaltz to look at it and for him to sort of advise the church on the upkeep and the care and what should be done in the future. But tonight we are actually we had planned to do this fundraising concert. So we're having like a Country Greats tribute concert. So it's going to be like Garth Brooks, Reba McEntire, and Shania Twain music. Tickets at the door. Starts at 7 p.m. and I'm going to have a small exhibit there. So I've made up some posters of some of the pages, and I will have the book there. So anybody who wants to come see it, who's coming to the concert, they can see it before the concert at intermission.
Great idea. Great idea.
Do you want to come down, take a look?
It's amazing. just to get, but for you to have your hands on it. Now, granted, okay, there's the pipe smoke smell and you got to take a break. Mm-hmm. But, and I'm sure people would love to see it. I'd love to see it. But just the idea of you being able to flip through the pages and read on. Anything else really strike you about what you read? I mean, was he very personal, very emotional, or was it just factual, or?
When I'm reading this, I'm realizing that he wrote this for other people to read, because when you're writing a journal and you've had a rotten day, you vent, and even when he is venting and he's angry, he's doing it in a very careful language. So it's like he's not really telling his deep secrets in this journal. He's telling them, this is what's happening this day, this is how I'm feeling, but not the deep stuff. The other thing that's really so interesting for me is that I'm reading names in this journal of the great and the good of Galt at the time. So I'm reading about the Turnbulls and the Goldies and the Berries, and James Young, who was the newspaper owner in town here. And James Young also wrote a book called The Early History of Galt. He was like a politician, did a lot of stuff, has some very famous buildings in town. And it just brings those people all more to life for me, because, those families have been here, some of them for over 150 years. And I actually have a very funny story to tell. At one point, I was in the church and I was reading through the journal, and I came across the last name Barry. And one of the other volunteers walks by, whose last name is also Barry, and I call out to him and I say, "Oh, could this be like a relative?" Or, and I read him the little passage, and he thought for a moment and he says, "Yeah, that's my great uncle."
Wow.
I know, it's so cool.
They happened to be walking by. That's, wow, getting a little chill there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously this journal is back where it belongs.
For sure. Wow. What a series of events, and all of it, and so many more to come. Tell us again, it's tonight at 7 Queen Square at the church. There's some country tributes, music, and the book will be there.
Yeah, so it's a Country Greats tribute concert. You can get tickets at the door. It starts at 7. Tickets are $25, and for children under 12, they're free.
Ingrid, thank you so much for your time.
You're very
all the
welcome.
best, and look forward to hearing more about this in the future as you find out more.
I will definitely give you updates.
Thank you very much.
Okay, take care.
Take care. Ingrid Talkback is a member of the Central Presbyterian Church, was there when this journal made its way home. Journal going back 150 years plus, I guess. Wow. Back where it belongs. This is 570 News Radio.
The church secretary looked at it and realized it was a handwritten diary. And she opens it up and she's reading it a little bit. And then she realizes, holy moly, this is a journal. And I happened to be in the other room and she brought it to me. And I'm flipping through it. And we all realized this is the journal of the first minister. So it was an incredible moment.
And the incredible moments continue with this incredible story. That was Ingrid Talkback, a member of Central Presbyterian Church in Galt. And my guest moments ago, Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. And if you missed the story, it's ongoing, but a woman that she didn't leave her name and number. I think they just finally found her now again. A woman finds this book at a Value Village, buys it, and then realizes that it's a journal diary of the very first minister of Central Presbyterian, going back over 150 years, James Dixon, Dicksen, Dixon. And the woman says, this book belongs to the church. I have to take it back. So she drives it back and just drops it off that night and then leaves immediately. And as Ingrid said, suddenly the book is there and they're flipping through it and they're like, oh my goodness, this is the diary and memoir of the very first minister of this church. Handwritten in beautiful cursive, Ingrid said, by the way, which is on its own. Only a certain amount of us in the demographic will go, yes, good cursive, good handwriting was so important. Used to be, right? No more. But in this beautiful cursive that he dedicated. So, and it's a big, thick tome. It's not necessarily or tome, I guess is what you say. But it's not a small little diary. It's a big book, it's like at least a foot high and 8 inches wide and 2 inches thick, and there's letters in it that are stuffed between the pages and all this. Wow, isn't it fascinating? So now they're trying to find more of the history of it. Again, tonight at the church, starting at 7:00, they're having a country music tribute show with acts that do tributes to Garth Brooks and Reba and Shania. And so they're going to have a book on display, and Ingrid has made some posters from some of the pages so you can kind of get a gist of it, because they're not going to let everybody just flip through the book, although that would be fun. You can imagine after all this time, it is probably pretty delicate, but made it. I mean, made it through time to arrive back home. That in itself is incredible, incredible. And Ingrid right now, and imagine others, but Ingrid's kind of taking the lead on this, where they're sleuthing. They're going through little names and things, and how the book made its way. It was supposed to be archived in 1979 or put onto like microfiche or something, and that didn't happen. And then it was, well, who knows how it traveled and it ended up at a Value Village, right? Was it stolen and then somebody just gave it away? I don't know. And pardon the personal memory here, but because I've talked about this on the show before, filling in. Our mom passed away about, I think it's going to be 3 years now, soon. She was 94. Okay, so my brother and I, he did a lot of the business and legal stuff, and I did a lot of the curating of her effects. And I went through a lot of stuff, a lot of items, certainly, but a lot of paper and pictures and things. And I found two things. I found 2 yearbooks that I recall seeing before, but not for a long time, that she still held on to. And okay, my mom was 94 when she passed, her high school yearbook. So, that's I'm doing the math myself. It's 74, 75, 76, 77, over 75 years. Old. And it's a typical yearbook in that, she has signatures from some of her classmates. Good luck, Sandy, and all this stuff. And there's some writing in it, and some of the it's there cover to cover, but some of it's a little loose in some places, but it's pretty good shape. And I found another one from University of Saskatchewan Department of Education. Before it was even called Department of Education, it was called Teachers College. And before that, I think it even had another name that wasn't affiliated with the university, but it morphed into the Department of Education at the U of S. But before it did all that, my mom attended there. She became a school teacher. So I've got these 2 yearbooks, and I look through them, and I show them. My brother has seen them too, and my kids have seen them, and I think, well, what do I do with this? Like, do I put it in a bookshelf or in a bin somewhere, and then my kids are going to keep it in a bin somewhere? Like, what do we do with this? And I was like, I've already seen it. I have the memories of my mother. I don't, I digitized a few of the pages just so I could have the pictures. And then I called her original high school, which still exists, and I called the University of Saskatchewan Department of Education, and I said, would you be interested in this yearbook? Do you have a display of old yearbooks and things? And they're like, definitely we do. And I the only thing I ask is that you put my mother's name there, donated by the estate of, and it should be on display for people to see. It shouldn't be in a bin somewhere. It's a piece of history. And I was just going through all that in my mind, and how interesting it was to kind of follow up and talk to people and find out, the exact era and all of these things, and talk to people who might be connected to that era or that institution and say, here it is. And I was thinking of that when that book coming back to the church after all that time, after it traveled who knows where and was in who knows who hands, and now suddenly the what am I looking for? The probability, the idea that it ends up in the hands of a woman who recognizes it for what it is and decides that it has to go back home. For that to happen. That's amazing. It's amazing. What a great story. I don't know, and I'm not recommending, but I'm sure as more is found out, Mike Farwell will follow up with Ingrid and others. Keep you up to date on that story. Speaking of Mike, he's around with the Coaches Show. That's coming up next, right after the news on 570 News Radio.
Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoruk.
And Mike Farwell coming up with the Coaches Show in just a couple of minutes. We'll get to that in short order here, but I do want to reiterate that, of course, as you heard, Rangers tonight, Flint Firebirds at the Odd, and then tomorrow night they're in Barrie, Colts, and then North Bay Battalion in town on Sunday. So that leaves Saturday night at the Odd open for a Blue Jays viewing party. And there will be one. So that's part of the Blue Jays fever that is happening this weekend, and how everybody's into it across all sports right now. Maybe not too much the NBA, because they seem to have their own issues right now. Jeez, that gambling story, man, at the NBA right now is just, I feel like it's the tip of the iceberg. Don't you? I mean, just the arrests and indictments, the coach of Portland, who's once a Raptor, and the guy from Miami, and there was a Raptor last year that got fined and banned from the Raptors for gambling and being involved in gambling. And one of the ways they do this, the guy from Miami, is what he would do. This is according to the FBI press conference. He would tell his friends, close associates that were in on this scam, that he would be leaving the game early with a supposed injury, right? So in the NBA, it's like, oh, coach, my knee, and then pull himself out of the game, which means that, because you can bet on an individual player how much they're going to score in a game, the over or the under. So if the bet on him was he was going to score 20 points that game, and he pulls himself out early, nobody knows this ahead of time, of course. So everybody would, like his friends, would bet thousands of dollars on the under. He pulls himself out of the game. They all win money. They take their small cut and they take the money over to his house, literally, and count it and deliver it in cash. And this is part of the scam. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to digress on the NBA, the negative part of gambling in sports. Let's stay positive here. Go Rangers, go Jays, go. Again, that hosting party or viewing party tomorrow night at the Odd, because the Rangers are away tomorrow. But they're home tonight, and it's time for the Coaches Show. Here is Mike Farwell.
You got a new Finn here coaching behind the bench this weekend. Tilkinen, tell me about this guy and how do you know him?
He's with the Olympic team, men's Olympic team, and he's only coaching the national team this year. So he asked me, can he come as a guest coach? So not behind the bench, he won't be today, but he's been with us the whole week and kind of changing ideas and kind of getting to know North American style. But it's been good for us, our coaching staff, to just change things. Like he was 4 years. He's been in Switzerland 4 years pro, won 2 championships there, and then 4 years in pro in Finland. So just kind of, it's been a good thing for us and for him also, for sure. And went to watch some. We went to Toronto, see the Tuesday's Toronto game. He was scouting with Shelley there just for the Olympic team. So all in all, this kind of thing, just changing ideas, and it's a good thing.
This is your third year here now. How much different is it, North America versus Finland, European?
I would say the biggest things are, of course, with the rink size, like with the breakouts and a little bit the time and space, and those I would say the biggest things, where you can forecheck when you can't, but it's on the rink size. But And then North American hockey is a little bit more physical, but I would say hockey's still hockey.
There's another Finn that's making news in Oscar Hemming. I'm sure you're happy that he's playing in the BCHL, but you'd rather have him here. How do you feel about that situation?
Yeah, I'm really sad for the boy all in all, like what's happened. Like, great kid, worked really hard, and hopefully still the Espo gets smart enough, then something will happen. But of course, for a boy needs to play. Like, can't be just practicing, and he needs to play, and that's the only thing what I can say. Great kid, and hopefully there will be agreement at some point.
Last Sunday in the game against London, your captain and Henry Brustevich of the Knights squared off early in the game to kind of set a tone, I think. What do you think about watching your captain do something like that?
Well, first of all, I wanted to see him playing, but I guess he wasn't happy about our performance on Saturday, so I think that's why he did that. But and just that, because that's at home ice losing like that Saturday, that was terrible. But then good thing we came up a lot, but like we played our game on Sunday, and that's what we should do. Yeah, it's but for Reader, I rather have him on the ice.
What can you say about your response on Sunday? It looked like maybe the most complete game your team had put together so far this year.
Well, yeah, that's with like, and it's not like we like the whole season at 11 games what we played has gone up and down. Just understanding what winning takes and how you have to play, and that's kind of. And on Sunday we played it. We defended hard. We're a lot smarter with the puck. We didn't make turnovers in bad places, and usually then you start winning hockey games. And good from the team though that it came big. And but yeah, it's new week again, and now as we have we remember our last Flint game. It's not enough to play only one period. You need the whole 60.
It's your first and only 3-3 of the season starting tonight versus Flint. What do you need to see from your hockey club?
Well, first of all, we have to defend. Their O-zone has been really good, Flint, so our D-zone has to be good. And all in all, I want to see our puck management and just in our rushes, like we have to be smart on that, and then just the battle in the compete, that has to be a signature. It can't be one game we do it, one game we don't. It has to be every game. So that's what we're looking for, getting the standard, what we want, how we do things here. And it's taking a little bit of time, but it's still early in the season, and now it's a good day to get going and keep going how we played against London.
Your boy Kirky and the Toronto Blue Jays start the World Series tonight. Can your boy Kirky carry this team, get the Blue Jays some wins?
They will. It's been always my team. So even all 3 years, the Jays are my team, and this year they'll win for sure.
Thanks for this. Good luck tonight against Flint.
Thank you.
Jussi Ahokas, the head coach of the Kitchener Rangers, joining us as he always does for the Coaches Show. As you can probably hear, I'm at the rink this morning as the Rangers take the ice for a morning skate before tonight's game versus Flint. A lot of questions, I know, have been asked about start times. The league has changed 4 times, or 4 teams have decided to change start times for games this weekend, including tonight. The Sioux and Sudbury will play their home games earlier on Saturday. Tomorrow, Brantford and Niagara have moved up the start times of their games. But those are the only teams around the league, at least at this moment, that have made any changes. So we're going to drop the puck here at the Memorial Auditorium for some Friday night hockey versus Flint. And that will be a 7 o'clock puck drop, which makes it a 6:30 Harris Law pregame show. Josh Piercy and I will be here to call all the action for you, taking you right through to Rangers talk in the postgame. And don't worry, just like you heard from head coach Jussi Ahokas, the Blue Jays have always been his team for the whole 3 years that he's been in Kitchener and Canada, for that matter, coaching. The Blue Jays are our team, too. Rogers in the big picture, of course, the parent company of this radio station, and Josh Piercy and I have been following the Jays all season long as well, so we'll have an eye on that scoreboard and keeping you up to date on the Jays' score as they open the World Series versus LA, and all of your traditional Friday night OHL action here at the Memorial Auditorium. The Coaches Show every Friday morning with Rangers head coach UC Ahokas as the first 3 in 3 of the season, and the only 3 in 3 the Rangers have to play starts tonight. The Firebirds in town. The Rangers will travel to Barrie to play the Colts tomorrow night, and then back home to take on North Bay Sunday, when we won't have a conflict with the Blue Jays. Thanks, as always, to Larry Fedoruk for filling in on the show while I'm away and enjoying the morning skate. And thanks to you for being a part of our Kitchener Rangers family. Broadcast time 6:30 with your Harris Law pregame show tonight on 570 News Radio.
It's Friday. It's game day. It's the weekend. It's the World Series. It's the Rangers. Lots to do. Lots to think about. Hey, by the way, quick side note. You heard of spring cleaning. What about fall cleaning or decluttering? There's a big event tomorrow in the region, the Glow Up Drop Off event. If you've got household items, clothing, actually, if you've got batteries that need recycling, go with that. In other words, just start going through the house and maybe repurposing some things and other things that, like batteries, where you want to get them into a proper recycling program. That and more can be done tomorrow. All you have to do between 9 and noon, I don't think you have to register or anything. There is a Waste Whiz app that you can check out for more details. And Whiz is WHIZ, although I prefer Z, even though I'm Canadian. But nevertheless, Waste Whiz app. They'll give you more information about this event tomorrow. And you can go to 925 Herb Street West, that is Gate 1 in Waterloo, and drop off stuff tomorrow between 9 and noon. Good chance to kind of go through the and it's not a junkyard, okay, but we're looking for things that can be repurposed more or less, but just in general terms, a good time to declutter and get rid of some of the junk as well, okay? So that's all tomorrow in the region. Kind of a good thing to do on a Saturday, huh? Get the kids out helping clean up, get the garage cleaned up, the basement, the old bedroom that's got some stuff in it, and take it over to Gate 1 there at 92 Herb Street West in Waterloo between 9 and noon. Have you been following this? Or I don't know if following is the right word, because there's so much to follow when it comes to our trade agreements or lack thereof with the United States and the volatile president of the United States, who, this is strange to me because we just saw on Wednesday night Mark Carney give a very good speech, perhaps lacking some substance ahead of the budget, Canadian budget that's coming out in a couple of weeks, but pretty good speech nevertheless about, somewhat inspirational, mostly perspirational, as I said, in that he wants Canada to, I don't think he said roll up our sleeves, but sacrifice, tough times ahead. We're going to have to get through this and it'll be better. So yeah, as far as trade and the economy and all that stuff. And in the meantime, obviously, Carney has visited Trump a couple of times, and it seems to go well. But beyond that, there's all kinds of negotiations going on day to day at various levels of government and business between the two countries. These things that don't make the news, but they're going on constantly to try to arrive at some agreement, palatable for all. So this is all going on. Carney's on TV. Everything seems to be going well. Meanwhile, I can't believe, well, I can, I guess, that Doug Ford on his own would run an ad on television without the knowledge of Mark Carney, other premiers perhaps, because everybody's invested in this, right? At provincially and, well, all levels of government, but especially provincially and federally right now, invested in this Team Canada approach to negotiating with a volatile president of the United States to try and avoid unfair trade agreements and tariffs. So the idea was, and it's actually kind of a cool commercial, and it ran on Monday night's game. Apparently, they bought $75 million worth of airtime to run this commercial in the United States for the province of Ontario. It's not the government of Canada. It's a province of Ontario. We paid for that. Taxpayer money paid for that airtime of that commercial. And it's a bunch of video of just industry of, you see ships in the St. Lawrence, you see docks, you see people loading things, you see agriculture, you see working. It's just kind of that gritty, really nice looking video. And all that's playing is excerpts of a speech by Ronald Reagan. Well, here's the audio. This is the commercial that has now the United States very upset that Doug Ford ran on American TV for Americans. Here it is.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
And bring up the Ontario Canada logo on the screen in white over all the images. Nothing else said, not brought to you by, not supported by, not just the Ontario logo comes up, boom, there it is. So that runs on Monday. Somebody asked Trump about the commercial. He actually said, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, he actually said, it's quite the commercial. I mean, if it was me, I'd probably do something similar. He said that. And then I guess, I don't know, maybe he had a bad Big Mac or something, because suddenly in the middle of the night, he texts in all caps, in all angry caps, why are you yelling caps? He texts to social media. All negotiations with Canada are off immediately, canceled immediately. So we're not even talking. And I don't know if not even talking means not even really talking, but I think it does. In other words, if Bob and Alice are on opposite ends of a negotiating team and Trump says no more negotiating, does Alice call Bob and go, hey, I guess the meeting's off. Do you want to talk anyway? Do you want to grab a lunch? We can talk about it, or maybe have a phone conversation or some emails. I don't think they're even allowed to do that. I don't think they would do that, because they would suffer the ire of Trump, who said they're canceled, so they're canceled. So we're not talking now. We're not even talking. And for Doug Ford to do that on his own. Now, I like the idea. And at the end of that video, if you see the commercial, you can find it online easily. I mentioned all the shots of industry and agriculture and work and workers and people. The end of it is a shot of Ronald Reagan sitting behind a desk. It looks like he's on an old TV. And he's, I think, wearing like a plaid shirt. It's not even a big formal thing that he's speaking that speech about tariffs. The Reagan Public Library and the people who control the archives say that audio was used illegally. They're pursuing legal. So that's the other thing. Trump says it's illegal. Doug Ford said it's public domain. Anybody can use that audio and that video. Doug Ford has posted the entire speech on X. So you can find that too. but it's not like it was. They say it was taken out of context. I don't know. I think the context is pretty clear, but it's obviously driven a wedge right into these supposed negotiations. And for Doug Ford to do that on his own, like, is that what happened? Is Mark Carney as shocked as anyone? Or was there at least a phone call? Mark, it's Doug. I want to run this commercial. Here it is. And it's like, yeah, it's not bad. What if they cancel on it? Well, I don't know. I think go ahead. No, go ahead. We'll take a shot. Did that happen? Or is this now everybody calling Doug going, hey, man, what are you doing? What are you doing to us? We were so close. I don't know. Again, I like our fight. I like the commercial. I like the idea of running the commercial. Just don't know if the timing is right. We can bring that up on our Friday 4 panel. Friday 4 panel is next. Larry Fedoruk and for Mike Farwell. Back in a moment.
Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoruk.
And I make up the foursome here for our Friday 4 panel. Time for the Friday 4 panel. Welcome, please, to the other members of the panel. The CEO of Habitat for Humanity, Philip Mills, is here. Philip, good morning.
Good morning.
And former Region of Waterloo Councillor, Tom Galloway. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Larry.
And we have outreach worker with House of Friendship. Our friend Marjorie Ann Knight is here. Hello, Marjorie.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining this panel this morning. I want to talk, first of all, about the Mark Carney speech of a couple of nights ago. Get your thoughts on that. Marjorie, maybe I'll start with you. It was kind of an unusual speech for a prime minister to make. It was a kind of the state of the economy, state of the nation address, if you will. What did you think of the speech, first of all?
Wow. I had a lot of feelings about that speech. Cast my mind back to several things. Everybody is talking about these rare metals in the Ring of Fire. And I keep thinking back to things like Grassy Narrows, where we went in and did all kinds of stuff and destroyed the environment and left Indigenous population with a mess that we still have not managed to clean up. We're all gung-ho about getting in there and doing things, but are the conversations happening? Are there decent things being put around it to make sure that the damage is not done and that people's lives are not disrupted and destroyed? I know we need economy. I 100% agree that we need to make non-U.S. contacts. We need to lessen how much we depend on them. We need to do all kinds of things, but we need to be very careful how we go forward with this.
Yeah, he didn't really address that. And I mean, I know it was more of a strictly economic and a preview of the budget, which didn't really happen either, but he didn't really address any of that. Your thoughts on the speech of Mark Carney the other night, Tom Galloway? What do you think?
Well, Larry, I think he's trying to address the imperative of the economy vis-a-vis the United States and the fact that we have to do workarounds and as the rest of the world are doing as well, around the tariffs and around the attitude of Donald Trump, and so ports make some sense because our economy is linked so closely with the United States through rail and through road. It makes sense that if we're going to go around the United States, then we're going to have to use ports and ship to other countries via the sea or possibly by air in some particular cases. So that just goes along with the territory, and it seems to make sense. And of course, he's trying to accentuate our natural resources. But I also think that he's putting down a marker in terms of the budget. As we see, there's now talk about, whether the budget will pass or not, and whether or not there will be elections. So this is also some saber rattling going on in order to get those 2 or 3 extra votes that they require to pass the budget.
Yeah, they're close to a majority, but they're not a majority, which is a very good point. Philip, would like to hear from you on this on the speech. Philip Mills.
I don't know if this is just like a natural, I don't know, cynicism in me. I want to see the budget. This is great and sure, and there's every, I think politicians need to create buy-in, and we got to have these speeches that make sense. But in the end, all the good language and words in the world, or bad, however you view it, the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. What does the budget actually say? Where is the money going? How are we actually doing these things? And so to a certain extent, I'm not kind of swayed or moved one way or the other as it relates to, he's like, okay, he's, still talking about the same sort of stuff and talking about, ports and those things. And I think to Marjorie's point, yeah, this is interesting in precious metals. Sure. Are we going to do that in a respectful, healthy way? Well, we'll tell when the budget comes out, because if there's money to do that, right? Or is this going so in the end, it's kind of that, I don't know, there's an economic idea, that revealed preference. You can tell what somebody actually wants, where we actually value what's actually important by where the money actually goes. So, you can say, we're going to do all this great stuff. And then if the money doesn't show up to go there, it was just words. And it might not be just words. I'm not suggesting that's it. I just don't know until I see the budget. And so I try to not get too one way or the other on this. All right, let's see what it actually is. And then I'll have maybe a better formed opinion. But right now I'm still kind of reserving judgment.
Oh, for sure. And to Tom's point, and Tom, if I'm taking your point correctly, let me know. This was kind of a little bit of hype towards the budget in general terms, and to the party in general terms, and to the plans for Canada in general terms, to get those extra votes, to kind of almost dare other parties to say, okay, shut us down and force Canada to have another election. I think it was partly that, which is why maybe it was short of detail. I don't know.
Well, it was short of detail. I think Phil's right. You have to follow the money where to see where the real intent is. But yeah, I think there was an obvious play to the opposition parties. Do you want an election or don't you?
Right, and I don't. I'm just feeling that we generally don't, because we just did one. People are saying if there was one, Carney would win anyway.
Oh.
I know that the Conservative Party of Canada is in a little bit of turmoil now, and some are questioning the leadership. So there's all that playing in to our lives, basically, and our economy, and the price of groceries, if you will. All of that.
It's politics, Larry.
Yes. Yes.
Politics.
What tricks? Okay.
Now, speaking of which, and we had a development since on this whole economy. How do we deal with tariffs, trade agreements, rather, and all that kind of stuff? Ontario runs a commercial on the baseball game and on all over American TV that features 30 seconds or so of Ronald Reagan deriding tariffs from a speech he made in the 80s. And this apparently ticks off Trump so much that he texts all in caps to social media that trade negotiations with Canada all canceled immediately. What do you make of this, Marjorie Ann Knight? Is it was Doug Ford on his own? Was this a Canadian move? Was this a good move? I don't know.
But we have these two men who go up on their own tangent all the time. Yeah. Donald Trump and Doug Ford. One never knows what's going to happen. He puts out this, I guess this is his Captain Canuck persona, and he thought this was a great idea. Perhaps not. And then again, $75 million for this ad on TV. When I look at where we are in our economy and our situation in our province, I can't even begin to understand why we would spend $75 million on an ad like that on TV. But you just don't know with Donald Trump. Today it's this, tomorrow it's something else. The buck is toe, oh no, that's a sign, and he's going to do something else. The only good thing is that most of the work is done behind the scenes with staff and bureaucrats and not necessarily him. And it's too important to the U.S. as well as Canada to not have trade discussions. So I don't think that we're going to have no trade discussions. We're going to have another flash in the pan and another showing of muscles and who's doing what. But I don't think in the end of the day that it's going to really make that much of a difference.
Right. Yeah. He'll have his tantrum and then hopefully we'll get back to the table. Do you think so?
It's his benefit also.
Right. Well, to the extent, yeah.
I don't think the idea, so I think when you're dealing with somebody who at times is, I don't know, I'm not gonna say flippant, but not always consistent. Sure, it could have been a commercial, but it could have been anything like that. This is just the reality of, somebody could have, said, we're excited to work with the States and said it wrong. And all of a sudden, I just think that there is always going to be, as long as President Trump is there, it's going to be a little bit of a quirky sort of relationship because he's a quirky guy who takes, these things, takes some things personally, other things not. I think it's just going to be the way that it is. And so for us to, I tend to think if it wasn't this, it would be something else because it doesn't seem like he is content or happy to really work with us because seems like he's looking for reasons more than anything, to be honest.
I think quirky is being kind, but then maybe. But anyway, Tom.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Phil. You're being too kind, but that's who you are. So, I think Marjorie hit the nail on the head. Actually, this is the flavor of the day, so to speak. I mean, I don't condone necessarily what Ford did, but it's not surprising. I think if it wasn't this, it would have been, we've taken off their bourbon off the shelves or something, and this is all part of his negotiating style, and we know that he's as thin-skinned as you can possibly be. So I think it's a 1 or 2 day news flash. The trade between the two countries, he knows is too important to not resolve the issues. So I think we'll be back at the negotiating table. In fact, I'm not sure whether the negotiations will be put on hold or not, depending on what their schedule was. But it's a good talking point, and maybe he's trying to get some leverage.
I was thinking that very thing, Tom, about I wonder if the people involved in these negotiations that we don't necessarily hear about day to day, whether they're not at least still on the phone or grabbing a lunch or talking to each other. I bet they are, but I don't know. Listen, Philip, you said the cynical person in you. Here's how cynical I am. Anything that happens in the United States right now that grabs headlines, I look at it and I go, oh, so this is another what Epstein files? It seems to me like the FBI busts the NBA on gambling. We're not having any more trade negotiations. We're building a big ballroom. We're tearing down the East Wing. And they're all going, what Epstein files? This is what we're talking about. And I'm like, it seems to me anything to distract them from opening up those Epstein files. That's just the cynicism in me.
Well, the Toronto Rangers was, for me, the best one yet. Right. Who knew?
Maybe he's upset the Blue Jays are in the World Series. Who knows?
Oh, all of that too.
Yeah, boy.
In New York.
Would I love for the 51st state to win the World Series this year? That would be fantastic. Anyway, we'll get to that on our panel as well, the Jays and all of that. It's our Friday 4 panel. More in a moment. This is 570 News Radio. Welcome back to the Friday 4 panel. I'm Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. Philip Mills is here. Tom Galloway, Marjorie Ann Knight. And I don't know, I call you Marjorie sometimes, but it's Marjorie Ann. I should be calling you Marjorie Ann, right?
Well, no, because my mother only did that when she was mad at me, and she called me by the whole name. Other than that.
All right. So Marjorie's okay if I just do that.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I want to ask you guys, and I'll start with Philip this time around, about this story this week of 250 Frederick and the landlord and tenant board basically siding on the tenants. People don't know, the building at 250 Frederick went under new ownership in April of 2024. Many tenants almost immediately got an eviction notice for renovation, which they felt was renoviction. And and they fought it. They didn't even realize something that they had legal recourse, but they fought it, and the board ruled in their favor and basically against the landlord, so they get to stay where they are at the rent they pay. What do you think? I mean, do we need some tougher bylaws? Other cities have them. Do we need bylaws specifically on rent evictions?
I think we have to be really mindful of this stuff, right? Like, I think there's no way, there are naturally occurring affordable things, and people have, rights to that stuff. We have said these are their rights. And so I think we need to make sure that, the laws are enforced. There's often this kind of idea, like, what more could we do? How do we change things? How do we fix stuff? And some of it is just enforcing the reality that was already there. Rent evictions are not legal. You have to have a reasonable reason, and it has to make sense, and it has to follow. And so sometimes a lot, in the stories and the articles and the things that I've seen, a lot of this work seems to be we expect somebody will say anything, and they won't know they have rights, and they won't act in a way because they don't have the opportunity to push back. And so bad actors get to do things, and I don't, not necessarily these were bad actors, but like bad actors get to kind of take advantage of people. And so I think ensuring that it is easy for people to have their rights enforced is an important thing. Like, you're not asking for, more. I'm not even saying that we need more rights. I'm not necessarily saying that it has to be, to make this harder for people. It's just to say, look, this is the reality. This is the law. These are your rights, and that should be easy to enforce and easy for people to have. It shouldn't be hard to get what the law says you should have.
Part of what I spoke to a paralegal who worked on this particular case said that because the bylaws would make it easier to fight the idea of a rent eviction. And if other jurisdictions like Hamilton or Toronto have them, then in fact, no bylaws in our region might attract some of the bad actors. So it would just help speed up the process of helping the tenants who may be facing a rent eviction. In any case, that was my thoughts on it. Marjorie, how about you?
I have had to deal with so many of these. And the bottom line is that a lot of these people who are living with rents that are attainable, that they can actually afford with the income that they have, buildings are being sold and they're being moved out. A lot of them don't know their rights. Some of them don't have the capacity to even go after the landlord. That takes a lot of time, a lot of effort and knowledge. It needs somebody who's a lawyer, or at least in that field, to help you go through these things. It's very difficult as it stands right now. And I have had to deal with entire apartment buildings in Cambridge where they have rent-evicted everybody. Nowhere for these people to go because there is no way that they can afford the rent that they're now going to face. If you're paying $800 a month and you go out, you're paying a minimum of $1,200 now. You're on a fixed income, you're on ODSP or OW or AOS. How do you live? How do you find somewhere to live? We have to stop this, and we need to put something in place so that the people themselves have an easier way of pushing back if they feel that this is being done unfairly to them. And for everybody to understand this is what has to happen. Because as it stands now, it happens and out they go. This is the exception to the rule, this one, and I'm so glad it happened. We have to do better.
The affordability is a big issue. And one of the things that kind of hit me this time was I was watching a clip from one of the tenants involved, and she made the point that, just because we're renters doesn't mean we don't put down roots. It's not just a matter of affordability. This is my home. I've been here 10 years, whatever it is, and these are my roots here now, even though I'm just a renter. And to be suddenly evicted, there's that aspect too of just your life in turmoil.
But you have to look at it. If I go down the road to Christopher Champlain, where you have all these apartment buildings, they were built to be affordable. They were meant for people who were lower income. And right now, if you go in there, a 2-bedroom is $2,200 a month.
Wow. Tom?
Well, I was really pleased to see the ruling from the landlord-tenant board. But I was also very pleased to see that Community Legal Services stepped up and took on the project or the case. And if they're able to do that on a sustained basis, I would really look forward to their involvement, because I think one of the ways that these REITs and investors work, they rely on the fact that the tenants don't necessarily have the resources, they don't have the know-how, they don't have the cohesion amongst themselves to be able to put up an argument and to challenge it. But if Community Legal Services is willing to do this, that would be great. And I think the fact that this one is being celebrated in the media hopefully will cause others who might find themselves in the same situation to go looking to Community Legal Services to navigate that system. But you know, this is going on a pretty regular basis out there, and I'm a member of Union Co-op, and we saved one property already from this particular dilemma, hoping to do more in the future. And Phil, of course, is more than aware of the Build Now project in Waterloo, where, you know, affordable housing is just there's such a dire need for it. And, you know, people wonder, well, where do these homeless people come from? Well, some of them, not all of them, but some of them come from rent eviction, because they can't afford the rents that are being charged elsewhere, where they have these apartments on a relatively affordable basis, and all of a sudden they're evicted.
Not. Yeah. Tom Galloway is a former Region of Waterloo councillor. Philip Mills is CEO of Habitat for Humanity. Marjorie Ann Knight is a family outreach worker with House of Friendship. I'm Larry Fedorican for Mike Farwell. That's our Friday 4 panel. Still to come, Ticketmaster, Blue Jays, and speed cameras when we return.
Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoric.
And the other members of the Friday 4 panel on the quadrant with me, Philip Mills, CEO of Habitat for Humanity, Tom Galloway, former Region of Waterloo councillor, excuse me, Marjorie Ann Knight is family outreach worker for House of Friendship. Go Jays Go. We're going to get to that next segment. I want to talk a little bit about ticket prices as well, and the Ticketmaster story that inevitably came up this week. In relation to Jay's tickets, we'll get to that next segment. This time, do we like what the region is doing, pausing the speed camera program, kind of a reaction to Doug Ford's idea that we shouldn't have them, they don't work? Do we like what they're doing? Do we like speed cameras? Tom Galloway, go ahead. You can start.
Oh, well, I can start off by saying I like speed cameras, because I was chairing the committee when we first instituted them, but we instituted them quite differently than what they are today, and that's part of the problem. But we should also remember that it was Doug Ford who allowed speed cameras to be put in place in the first place in school zones only, as where they are. And now, because some of his friends are complaining about getting tickets, he's pulling back. Now, having said that, I think most municipalities have gone overboard in terms of the 24/7 coverage and non-school days. And when we look at what the big city mayors are presenting to the premier now as some kind of compromise, although he says he's not interested, it is to do more targeted, timely enforcement, which is how we started the program initially. It went 24/7 sometime later on. So I do think that the evidence is quite clear that it has slowed down. I can tell you that as a member of City Council, the most common complaint I had was speeding when I got phone calls or messages. And the evidence is that this is the police included will say that it seems to have been effective. So you can look at it as a cash grab. All the money that apparently is collected goes towards road safety programs, doesn't go into any other budgets. And to me, that's a good thing. And I got a ticket myself. So on Christmas Day, mind you, which didn't go over real well. But I think but to the question of whether they should pause it, well, of course they should pause it because they're being told that September next year it doesn't exist any longer. So how much more do you invest in it?
True enough. Yeah. Philip, speed cameras?
The region has to pause it because, yeah, we don't want to invest more money in something that the province has made pretty clear they don't like and they don't want, which, it was their program. They invested in it. They said it was a good idea, and now they're backing off because, in the end, people don't like it. I think they're great. I have never understood the frustration with them. I get that people want to speed. I just don't. I genuinely don't understand. It's it should be, there's comments about well, it shouldn't be a camera. There needs to be a person or a different sort of thing. It's all of this just comes down to, I think people think they should be able to travel at high rates of speed through neighborhoods and in front of schools. And the answer is well, there's no kids there. It's yeah, but the posted speed limit's the posted speed limit. Still, the idea is hey, you're supposed to go 40. And I think what we really have is a cohort or a lot of us who are just I should be able to drive 60 or 70 through residential neighborhoods. I'm a good driver. And is that sort of I'm not a problem. This is a reasonable speed. I would like to travel this. I have places to go and things to do. And this camera's stopping me. Okay. So we're going to take them away. And invariably somebody will get hurt. And we will come back and say, what could we have done? And the answer would be traffic calming. And then they'll say, yeah, but this seems like we're, prioritizing our own convenience over community good because the amount of time saved by speeding through a neighborhood is nothing. But it's just what we want. It's what we do. And it's what politicians have heard from us, that we want to speed through neighborhoods. So they're going to take away the enforcement and make that more available.
I don't know. There's an argument for speed cameras on a 400 highway or a link where you can do 80 and 100 and things like that. But school zones, come on. Well, speed cameras, zero tolerance, school zones. Come on, at least there. Can we not say let's do 40, let's do 30? Yeah. I don't understand the school zone. And I was taught always that even though it's a Saturday or a Sunday or a July or August, school and playgrounds are generally where kids are, even though schools may not be in session. So it doesn't matter what day it is.
Agreed. Right. These are kids. Let's try and make it safe for kids. It should be universally accepted. It's not.
And we know it works because, I know personally, it's oh, there's going to be a speed camera here. I am slowed down to 0. So, it's a good reminder for people, especially around those sensitive zones, to slow down, and it works. And for all those people say they want people there, friend, what do you want? We need to turn over our entire budget to police so that they can put people out there to slow them down. How ridiculous is that?
You can still get a ticket. That person's going to give you a ticket, just like the camera does. The ticket is the thing people are mad about. This is the same thing that comes up with housing, Marjorie, right? We need more affordable housing. We need to make this place there. Just don't put it near me. We need to make traffic better. We need to make communities safer. Please take away the cameras. You're okay, well, what do you want? Which is the same thing every time. We want it as long as it doesn't impact us.
I want to do what I want to do. And I am happy for those cameras. I'm happy for those cameras in school zones. And if you have to pay for them, oh, well.
I've never been hit by speed. I got hit by photo radar in the day on the QEW one day, but photo radar, I don't know. Is there or can they build in a tolerance level? So if you're going 42 in a 40 zone, they don't send you a ticket. An officer might let you go for 5 over or something. And
I don't think that they're set. I've never seen reporting that says that somebody's getting a ticket for going 41 in a 40. It's that the tolerance is set at you were going 50 in a 30 and it's a 20 over ticket. And they're well, 50 isn't that bad, but it's 20 over. That's 180. It's that.
Right.
Not that the tolerance is set too low, but that people think that they should be able to go 50 and 60 and the areas are 30s and 40s.
Right, but there is a tolerance level built into speed cameras as well.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. I wasn't sure.
I can confirm that, but they and I kind of happen to know what it is currently, but it's not public because they don't want people to know what the tolerance is.
Right.
Because then that's what they'll aim at. So
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not one over. That's for sure.
It's definitely not one over.
Right,
It might have been at one point, mind you.
Ooh.
It was what, Tom? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
It may have been anything over 40 at one point, but it's not that now. I know that for sure. But I'm out of the loop, of course, but I'm still connected. So
I've also, and it's hard to get stats on this, to say they work, and I'm glad they work, and even if they work 5%, then they're working. But it's hard to find out how well they work. The stats often are around, yeah, we saw a 10% decrease or 12 or 15. I mean, is that enough? Should we be shooting for higher or again, love to have no speeders at all, and especially school zones, but
well, it doesn't cost. Like if the idea is, hey, we've reduced this by 10% and it pays for itself, okay, great.
Right.
If it's reduced at 7% and it's paid for itself, great. If it reduces at 80% and pays for it, like it's not as though this is some sort of thing that is a massive out-of-pocket cost and we're paying millions and millions and millions and millions and only seeing a 2% reduction. It's a net neutral cost on us. So whatever reduction it gets, great. All you got to do is stop speeding.
That's all you got to do.
Unless people keep
in
cutting
a school
them down.
zone.
That one in Toronto keeps getting cut down. I'm like, it's unbelievable to me.
Who has time for that? I got a job, 3 kids. Like, who has time to be going around and bothering with speed cameras? Like, I just could not imagine having that sort of free time in my life to be out, vandalizing speed cameras because I am so opposed to just going at a posted speed limit. I just can't fathom.
Yeah.
We clearly live different lives.
That's a head scratcher for sure. And the other thing that makes me wonder is it's been cut down like 8 times. At what point, and we don't know who did it, we don't set up a camera? Like,
I don't know if there's time, but I can try to explain to Phil why people have time to do that, because there's a thing that goes on in some people's minds, mostly men, in their cars. There's a relationship that men particularly have with their cars. And I got into some of the most heated arguments with people over the phone when we would create a 4-way stop at a particular intersection because they weren't stopping. They didn't think they needed to stop. I don't know what it is, but there's some kind of a thing that particularly men have with their cars and they don't want to be encumbered.
I'm not even going to touch that one with a 10-foot pole.
That's not like a bike. It's not hard to push a pedal. Like, yeah, you can, like, I would get if a cyclist is like, please move this stop sign. This is really hard for me. The car, like.
I know. You wouldn't believe some of the arguments.
Yeah.
All right. That's a very interesting discussion. So many good points. Next segment, we're going to talk about the Blue Jays. Certainly, I want to get some of your thoughts and maybe even predictions, but also related to it, of course, the Ticketmaster story. Speaking of Doug Ford, Ticketmaster, and these tickets that go on sale and then they're not available, and then suddenly on the secondary market they're there for thousands of dollars more. Anyway, we'll cover all of that on the Friday 4 panel next. 570 News Radio. Welcome back to the Friday 4 panel. I'm Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell with Philip Mills and Marjorie Ann Knight and Tom Galloway here on our panel. I want to get panel to our Go Jays Go moment and our love of baseball and all that stuff. But before we get to that, kind of the Ticketmaster situation, and it's not just Jays, it's Taylor Swift or a hockey game or whatever it is. And there used to be a law that said you can't get a bunch of tickets and you can't sell them for this amount over. And actually Doug Ford got rid of that. And now he's saying he might put it back. And can we cure this? Any Marjorie Ann Knight, can we cure this idea of everything being so expensive in those venues, reasonable price tickets and being able to
I don't know. Greed is such a powerful emotion. And as long as they know that people will pay them that money, they're going to keep pursuing it, and people will pay it. I mean, I was listening to somebody on the radio the other day, and they're saying, well, you can either send your child to college or you can buy a ticket to the Blue Jays game. And they laughed. And then I thought about it. It's not even funny, because that's the same kind of money you're talking, and people are paying it. If there's a market, it's going to exist. So
the market will rule, as we can't legislate it.
But we can, and we should. I am sure that there are several things that they can do. I mean, why people are allowed to buy huge blocks of tickets and then resell them should never be allowed. There are things that can be done, controlling resale tickets and how they can be sold. I mean, we've seen it in things like the Olympics, where they have been very strict on resale tickets. So, you could be arrested for trying to resell tickets. There's all kinds of things that can be done. Doug Ford took that away. He took the little that we had away. Now he's maybe we should. And then the games will be over and it will continue as it is.
The big difference is from, and I know scalper is the incorrect word right now, but the old-fashioned scalper who would pay somebody to stand in line and buy 50 tickets and then stand outside the stadium and, hey, anybody need a pair, to the StubHub online model now, and the fact that Live Nation Ticketmaster actually has a foot in that market as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we just go back to that. Like, do we just say that you can't buy tickets online? You have to go to a physical space and change all these things again. I wish we saw some of this stuff more as the way that we pretend to talk about it. Like, we talk about, this is Canada's team when it comes to the Blue Jays, and we talk about, if you're a unfortunate Maple Leafs fan who chooses to, live a life full of delusion every year, so be it. But they use the word we in all of this. I wish we saw these as public good. This is supposed to be something that's for us as consumers, that, they are performers and it's a part of a public good and a part of, whether it be city identity, national identity, localized identity, allowing that to be something that the local people can reasonably access, and the people who are there. Like, I think that actually is public good. I don't know that tickets are the way that we need to make money. Like, this is, there's some, places that have tried to say, we're going to keep tickets low. We're going to make sure that concessions are accessible. Like, if people want that stuff, I get it, but it'd be like, I had said earlier, I got 3 boys. And I would love to be able to take them to go see something like this, but like 4 or 5 tickets, like, it's impossible. And so I think, realizing all kinds of people want to and demand and those stuff, but like, at some point, I wish we thought of these things as part of our community, and that these things were, something that ought to be, whatever, regulated and made accessible in a way that allows them to be part of our community, as opposed to, what they are now, which appear to be just massive opportunities for massive multinational corporations to make massive dollars.
And it used to be community. It used to be packing up the family and going to watch, but can't now.
Yeah. Tom?
Well, I think this is one of the victims of the technological boom, when you can buy tickets online as opposed to having to line up in the past. But I don't want to vilify too much Ticketmaster, but they make money coming and going on this. They get the original fee, and then they get the fee again on the resale, because they're the only ones that can really verify the resale. And there's so many frauds out there that people want to go through a reseller who can verify the ticket. So they make it coming and going. Now they say they're working on trying to prevent bots from buying up a bunch of tickets. But so many people talk about, I was online, or I was on the phone, or whatever you do, well before, and all of a sudden everything's gone. Everything, because people are buying multiples, or some bot has been able to do it quicker and faster than you can do it. So I think that Ford got rid of the 50% thing. I mean, he said it was unenforceable. Well, but Ticketmaster would have to enforce it. if they were going to be in the resale market. I do think some things have to be put into place, and it would be good to get another major ticket company involved as well to have some competition.
I was taking Blue Jays stories yesterday on the show, and a gentleman called to say he and his friends used to live near Exhibition Stadium back in the day, and they would ride their bikes over there on game day, and the cops would give them tickets that they took from the scalpers. I was like, sounds so old a story, but a wonderful, but of its day, just taking a physical ticket from a reseller and handing it to a kid. I was like, yeah, I guess that'd be great if that could happen. We only have a couple minutes, literally. Quickly on the Jays, do we have a shot? I think we do. Marjorie?
I don't even watch baseball.
Okay,
but
archery.
But it's a Toronto team, so I wish them all the luck.
All right. It's Canada's team now, they say, but
Canada,
yeah, of course
we do. They've got a shot. That's the best part about baseball. It is the most predictable sport over the course of a season and the least predictable game to game. You just like anything can happen in a baseball game at any point, and any pitcher can be that curveball is just a little off, and all of a sudden it doesn't take much in a baseball game. So I think, we have a real shot, and we're gonna, be excited about it the whole way through.
If you've made it to the World Series, you've got a shot, that's for sure, because you're there already. The Jays are a bit of a Cinderella team, let's face it. I mean, no one at the beginning of the year thought they would be winning their division and, of course, winning the league. So who knows where this projection can go? The Cinderella projection can go. I think they've got a shot, and they've got a home field advantage.
And why do they have a home field advantage? Because they have a better season record than the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's why they won one more game than they did. So I definitely think they have a shot. Panel, thank you very much. Have a good Jays weekend or whatever you're doing this weekend. Thank you for today, all of you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks. We'll
Thanks
see
as
you.
always.
Bye now.
Bye.
Marjorie Ann Knight and Tom Galloway and Philip Mills, our Friday 4 panel. I'm Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. We will talk a little Jays economic benefit next hour, and also our 12 o'clock Talkback Hour coming up.
Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoruk.
As you know, every day, 12 to 1, we take your calls, whatever you want to talk about, the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. And we're just going to put that on hold for a few minutes because I want to have a conversation about economic impact, the boon for Toronto. And as mentioned on the show earlier, in proximity, we feel it too with the Blue Jays' success this year in the World Series. We're having watch parties. We're having people go downtown they go to Galt for the big screen. They'll be at the Odd tomorrow for a screening party. And all of that matters. Joining us to talk about this, Managing Director of The Data Jungle. They are a research and consultancy company specializing in the business side of sports, entertainment, and tourism. From The Data Jungle, Managing Director Derek Major is joining us. Good morning, or good afternoon, Derek.
Well, good afternoon to you. It is morning out west in Vancouver, where I'm based, and happy to be on the show.
I'm so interested because we always hear economic impact, and my understanding is there are actually no numbers out yet on, say, the dollar amount of impact for Toronto for the Yankees series or the Seattle series. We'll find that out. But some of the numbers you hear from previous years are pretty staggering. Obviously, there's a way to quantify this. And how would you quantify it?
Yeah, no, great question. And any event, big, small, sport, cultural, etc., there is going to be some positive economic impact, some bigger than others. And by definition, economic impact to a community is generated by new money entering the local economy from people outside of the area that came to that city or town specifically for that sporting event. That's the definition that economists will use for that, whether you're an overnight guest or a day tripper just coming for the game and going home and sleeping in your own bed. And how that normally gets quantified, a lot of the work that we do We'll be at events. We'll be surveying people in the stands, on the streets. We'll get figures from the event organizers, from the municipality, from anyone who's spending money operationally or even capital expenditures to improve the stadium, to upgrade the lights, or any systems that are needed to host such events. All of that money then goes into models that economists build that then churn out economic outputs in terms of GDP, wages, salaries, employment equivalencies, taxation revenues, etc. And for something like this, there's going to be some big numbers.
The numbers from 2024 for Yankees Dodgers, now mind you, those are two huge markets, were something like $43 million per game of economic benefit, which is staggering when you think it's one day, a one event thing. Is this why we always hear about hotels and bars and restaurants off the top? But because I'm hearing that's obviously huge, but what I'm hearing from you, Derek, is it just goes so far beyond that.
Well, yeah, and economic benefit is slightly different, or economic activity, where that would be amassing all of the money being spent for anyone that's participating or enjoying the game or the event, whether it's in a local bar or restaurant downtown, whether they're traveling in and paying exorbitant prices for tickets, and staying in hotels that have probably inflated their prices to take advantage of the supply and demand factors here. So there's different ways of calculating those numbers. Now, as I mentioned, by definition, it's new money from people outside of the area. But as you alluded to, whether there's watch parties going on at the Odd in Kitchener, whether it's people visiting bars and restaurants in and around the vicinity of the stadium before and post game for beers and food, or whether it's out in the suburbs and people are just getting together with friends or family at the pub or the sports bar to watch. Take it across the country. Out in Vancouver, people are getting together. Friends of mine were watching the game. We're spending money that we wouldn't have spent here in Vancouver, but the Jays going to the World Series being the catalyst for that economic activity, and hence the benefactors or anybody in that industry, whether it be hotels, restaurants, someone selling beer on site, merchandise, et cetera, et cetera. So the ripple effects are huge, which is why you would see such large numbers for a single day in those $40 million numbers. And it's probably taking into consideration all of those factors and benefits.
I have a friend with Toronto Police Services who's expecting to do some overtime because of the watch parties at Nathan Phillips Square. I mean, I guess you'd factor that in.
Exactly. You think of the ripple effects across various industries, right? And whether, the simple ones are, the food industry and the supply and, bringing in more food, bringing in more beer, hiring more staff to keep up with the demand. The police, the security, well, all of that factors in. More staff at the games, more businesses ramping up to handle all this demand. All of that can be accounted for and added together. Not an easy process. There's a lot of leakage, a lot of things that are near impossible to measure. So even with any study that we do, there's usually a little asterisk beside it saying, and there's probably more monies that we have not accounted for because it's just impossible to measure everything.
Economic benefit is always an interesting stat to hear and interesting work in that data, I imagine. But do you look at the data jungle? Do you look at other kind of benefits, be they cultural, societal, that and perhaps economic in that way as well, but more cultural? Do you look at those as well?
Oh, well, fabulous question. And we view event impact through 5 different lenses, if you would, or 5 pillars. One of them obviously being economic, as we talked about. Another one being the community and the social impact. So think of the camaraderie going on as the city or the country is cheering on that team, the conversations that are happening on the subways or around the water coolers, the, hey, let's get together and watch the game tonight. Come to my place, we'll order in some pizza, bring some beer. All of that sort of bringing community together and the socialization around a sporting event and around the fandom of your favorite team, or whether you're a hardcore baseball fan or you're jumping on the bandwagon and go Canada, go Jays, go, all the same. You look at it from a sport perspective, are more kids going to potentially sign up for minor league baseball or softball because they're now excited seeing, wow, baseball's exciting. I want to be like Vladdy. Those numbers that may take a little while to see, but hey, maybe baseball registrations go up across the country next year because of this. We also look at it through an environmental and sustainability lens. Those are usually more on the negative side of the ledger. More people, more plastic cups being served, more garbage on the streets, more bigger carbon footprint, et cetera, et cetera. So that needs to be considered when hosting large scale events like that as well. And in media and marketing or reputational impact, like the city of Toronto, the country of Canada, is getting a lot of exposure, whether it's through broadcast, whether it's through people visiting the city and tweeting back to their friends what a great place it is to visit, how friendly Canadians are, come and visit, et cetera, et cetera. So the impact goes far beyond just the economics. And that's how we view the impact of any event, really.
So at Data Jungle, it's great after the event to be able to go to you and say, hey, what happened here, and get this data. But your consultancy service, so how does that operate? Would a client potentially be, say, a city of Toronto or a sports team come to you first and say, what should we do? What can we do, whether it be environment or otherwise, before we march into this event?
Yeah, no, good question. And it's usually best done planning well in advance for things like this. Doing it after the fact is a lot harder. We like to rely on real data. And so for any event, we would have a team of people out roaming the streets, interviewing people, surveys being sent out through the ticketing database, asking people where they're from, why they came, how many nights they stayed, how much money they spent in these categories, and a whole series of questions. And that all needs to be planned out in advance. And our clients include leagues and teams and events rights holders, municipalities, different levels of government, tourism bodies, and DMOs. They all benefit from this, right? If, what's the saying? When the tide rises, all boats come with it. Mm-hmm. This is true in this case as well.
Yeah, I was talking earlier with a local event hosting official in Waterloo, because we have the 2026 Ontario Summer Games a year from now. It's a 4-day kind of Olympic-style event. And the planning and everything that's going into that starts now. It started months ago, frankly, just to lead up to that event. So when you said that, it was all ringing true for me. For example, this event, which is coming up next summer. So.
Oh, yeah. And events like that, again, tremendous impact. You have families coming to support these young athletes, the participants themselves, all the coaching and supporting staff, and general fans that want to see sport at that level. And so that'll be a tremendous benefit for the Waterloo region by hosting games of that caliber. We're talking thousands of people descending on the region for a few days of a fabulous event.
This sounds like really interesting work. I mean, I guess I would assume you're a bit of a numbers guy. You love the data and crunching all this as you and how to apply it afterwards once you have all the data, right?
Yeah, not a lot of people would call analyzing volumes of data exciting work, but half of my brain definitely geeks out on numbers, and the other half of me is a sports nut. And so when I get to combine my love of sports with the ability to do some math around it, it's a great place for me to be in, that's for sure.
Oh, gosh. My daughter is in media data, generally in her business, and we geek out all the time on numbers and data and stuff. So with your knowledge and your love of sports, that sounds perfect. Well, thanks for this, Derek. I appreciate your time today. And, go Jays go. And I hope you are celebrating in Vancouver as well.
Oh, we'll definitely be watching out west. We're cheering on the Jays, and I just hope this doesn't become the Tariff series or any bad name that way, as they've given different series names before. So,
well, yeah, I say the 51st state is winning the World Series. That's my prediction.
There we go. It's going to be fun either way. But yeah, let's start with the Jays victory tonight and go from there.
You bet, Derek Major. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Larry.
Derek Major is managing director of The Data Jungle. The Data Jungle is a research and consultancy specializing in the business side of sports, entertainment, and tourism. As I said before the interview, we don't exactly have the numbers of the strictly economic benefits to the city of Toronto after New York series and the Seattle series. Those will be coming. I don't know that they're that important now, but it is a great stat to hear after this is after we're all through with the baseball aspect of it, to actually go, oh, and also this happened because Toronto was in the World Series. So we'll get to that eventually. And we'll get to your calls when we kick off our 12 o'clock Talkback Hour next here on 570 News Radio. We just bumped the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour a few minutes so we could talk with Derek Major of the Data Jungle there about economic benefits of events that we feel, as I said, even in the proximity of the city of Toronto, because so many people, so many communities have taken on the Jays and cheering on the Jays. They represent a city, but they represent a country now, as well as being the only Canadian team in Major League Baseball. Incidentally, there's a and I'm sure, by the way, speaking of which, everybody's seen the shots online of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I think he's 3. He's in his little Expos uniform with his hat on his chest, and his dad's standing beside him during Expos national anthem or something. It's just the best. There's a Netflix documentary out now. I think it's called Whatever Happened to the Expos or something like that, or What Exactly Happened to the Expos, I think is more precise. And it kind of chronicles the demise of the team, and there's such a love still for that team. And my brother and I were talking about the other day, as kids, pre-Jays, even out on the prairies, we wore Expo hats, man. That was, that was our team. So there is that if you want to get into that in your baseball fervor over the weekend. But anyway, we'll get through all that and back to our 12 o'clock Talkback Hour at 519-570-2545, 1-800-570-5715, or star 570 on your cell. Here's Kyle. Kyle, go ahead. You're on 570 News Radio.
The documentary, Larry, is called Who Killed the Montreal Expos. Great documentary. I saw it the other day. I'm not going to ruin it, but you have to watch it.
Who Killed? I knew it was the stronger title than that. Okay, cool. Thank you. I was going to just Google Expos documentary anyway, but Who Killed? Okay.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. The other thing is do you know how much money do you think that Go Transit is probably biting their tongue right now and not having all-day two-way Go Transit from Kitchener to Toronto right now during this epic moment of the Toronto Blue Jays making the World Series tonight? Do you know how exciting it is, Larry? We're going to see our boys in blue. They're going to take on the Dodgers. You know what? It doesn't matter about the Dodgers. Who cares about the Dodgers? This is it. Win or lose, the Toronto Blue Jays are here. They made it to the finals, and this is what it's all about, and I'm excited. I'll miss the game tonight because I got hockey, but tomorrow, the ballpark sausages, we got the barbecue. I'm going to go get a case of 2 for tomorrow, and I'm excited to watch it, Larry. Like, this is unbelievably epic, and I have no words other to say like how excited I am for the Toronto Blue Jays to play in the World Series. That will never get old of just saying the World Series with the Toronto Blue Jays into it. So thanks, Larry. I appreciate it, my friend.
I feel your energy, Kyle. I just want to say that somebody who was at Game 6 with Joe Carter home run with his son knows what it's like, and it's that exciting again.
You were at Game 6?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm very jealous. My dad was at Game 5 for Seattle, and he's on his lottery now, or whatever the last Seattle one was. Maybe it was Game 3 or whatever. But he's at the Seattle one, and then he's just waiting to see if they make it to Game 6 for the World Series. So, because we got family tickets there. But no, nice. I'm jealous of you guys. All you guys, I'm jealous. I'll watch it from the comforts of my home. But I'm glad that you have that memory, because you'll never what's the word is I'm trying to say is it's something that you'll always have with you for the rest of your life, is just those moments you have, right? So, lucky, Larry. I'll let you be, but thanks a lot for taking my call, my friend.
All right, Kyle. Enjoy the weekend. Yep. Enjoy the hockey. Enjoy the baseball. Here's Jersey Bill. Jersey Bill, go ahead. You're on the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour.
Yeah, one thing that sort of struck me is The other day, I was watching TV, and the interviewer was interviewing some family members of George Springer, and I didn't realize that George Springer had kind of a mixed heritage in his background, and actually his father's from the Caribbean and his mother's Panamanian. He's in the same category, I guess, as Alejandro Kirk and Vlade Guerrero.
Right.
I have to think too. Now the big hope for the man in the South, are these L.A. Dodgers. But who are the Dodgers full of? A bunch of Asians. Their best players are from Asia, from Japan mainly, and
they also have a dual American Canadian citizen on the Dodgers, and I'm trying to remember his name. Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman.
Yeah. That's sort of funny too. But you have to sort of think. Sure, there's these crackdowns on immigration, and if Trump really wants to make America great, it was in the 1920s. Not only will he ruin the country with these crazy tariffs, but he's going to really restrict immigration as soon as he gets all these supposed people he doesn't want out of the country, and then we'll be put in the same situation we were in 1929 or into the 1930s, which nobody wants, but. The way that the baseball teams are set up now, even though there's only one in Canada, the rest are in the U.S., but the international aspect of it, I mean, that's something we should all rejoice in, because it shows what happens when we all work together. And boy, I hope we can get back to that, because that's where we need to be. We don't need to be fighting one another. At least these countries that have so many years of alliance between one another. It's really sad.
Yeah. Jersey Bill, thanks, man. Some great thoughts there. Appreciate the call. I know often that there are friendly wagers between mayors or sometimes premiers and governors or sometimes the leaders of nations. And apparently, in the light of Trump canceling all negotiations right now, trade negotiations with Canada because of that commercial that aired. Apparently, Mark Carney still has a call out to Trump about a friendly wager between for the World Series between the Dodgers and the Jays. And I thought, how friendly do you want to make it, and how much do you want to put on the line? Maybe it's just you wear our jersey, I'll wear yours, or whatever. I don't think it should get too serious on that, but. Yeah, the old thing of settling our differences on the field of play rather than fighting amongst ourselves all the time was very interesting. More of your calls on the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour right after the news. This is 570 News Radio. Back in a moment.
Here's special guest host Larry Fedoric.
Listening to Kevin Meisner outside Skydome, featuring the drum beats of Rockin' Rick Donaldson. I was reading about him. He's been there for decades outside the stadium, playing the drums, providing the rhythm. And he's retiring after this year. He's retiring at the end of this season, which, lucky for him, has been extended because he's busking out there. It's some money for him. Retiring from that, he's actually apparently going to continue be a musician and a drummer for sessions, whatever work he can get. But that part of his busking life is what he's retiring. So just a heads up, there's an opening next year for a guy to sit outside the Skydome, the Rogers Center, during games and play the drums. There you have it. Some great excitement there. More of your calls. Here's Paul. Paul, go ahead. You're on 570 News Radio.
Normally on this date, I'd be calling Mike first thing in the morning to wish my grandson a happy birthday. He turns 18 today. I haven't seen him in over 10 years due to family court problems. But not a day goes by that I don't think about him. And somebody out there knows Alex, and it's his 18th birthday today. If you see Alex, tell him happy birthday from his grandfather and his father. We hope to one day see him again.
All right. Paul, I hope somebody passes that along. My friend, thank you very much for calling.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right. All the best. Here's Jason. Jason, go ahead. You're next on 570 News Radio.
Hey, Larry. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Well, thank you. So you referenced Freddie Freeman a couple times, that he's a Canadian American. And so, I don't know, have you heard his backstory?
I have not. It's on my list of to figure this out, because I keep getting distracted on other things. But what is the story?
I'll give you the Coles Note version. So both of his parents were born in Canada, in Ontario, I believe Windsor, that area. They moved when he was, they moved to work to the States. I believe he was born down there, but his mother passed away when he was really young from skin cancer. And so he plays for Team Canada as a homage to her. But additionally, you'll also notice that he always wears long sleeves, and that's a reminder that his mother passed away. I think it was melanoma. So that's the Freddie Freeman story. It's actually kind of a neat story, sad, but that's kind of cool what he did and what he does.
Boy, thanks for that, Jason, because you know what? I guess somewhere in the dominance of L.A. over the years, I have heard that story and forgotten it. That is a good story, though. I mean, yeah, sad, but inspirational in its way as well.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you noticed Josh Naylor when he was playing when Seattle was in town, but he had a Canadian flag logo on his belt around his ball pants.
I didn't notice that. That's Mississauga guy. He had a lot of friends and family at the Rogers Center.
Correct.
Yeah. Wow. All right. That's cool.
Enjoy. Have a great day.
You as well. I just found out today that you can see it if you see the replay, and you will see the replay again of George Springer running the bases after hitting the home run against Seattle to win win Game 7 to go to the World Series. His gloves are kind of blue and green, which you think, is that Seattle colors? Why is he wearing batting gloves that are blue and green? They're actually the blue and green of the Hartford Whalers, because he's from Connecticut and grew up being a huge Hartford Whalers fan, and still as a tribute, after it's all over, those gloves are going to the Hockey Hall of Fame. They're not, this is a true story. They're not going to Cooperstown to baseball. They're going to the Hockey Hall of Fame. They'll be donated. George Springer's gloves. So there's a connection to yet another player. Where are we going next here? Is it Greg? Greg, go ahead. You're on the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour.
Yeah, just some comments on the whole ticket pricing and thing.
Yeah.
Okay, if they want to go after them, but then at the same time, hotels raising their rates ridiculously for Taylor Swift or whatever, should they not be going after them too? Or anybody else that all of a sudden ups the price of chicken wings, or anybody? It's a supply and demand everywhere. So yeah, it sucks that the tickets are what they are, but at the same time, if someone's paying that price, why are tickets really different than everybody else? Or even just the housing market and the rental rates kind of thing going up, because if someone's getting their price, well, all the power to them, kind of thing, So that's what I'm not in favor of these stupid ticket prices, that's for sure. But at the same time, that concept of tickets, I don't think it's alone out there. But then you don't hear the same hype. You just sort of accept that the real estate market is what it is. Okay, first-time home buyers, so tough luck. It's not gonna happen. But are they out there trying to then legislate something to do that, or hey, that hotel room shouldn't be $3,000 a night, get it back down to $500?
Yeah, I think part of it, though, and in most cases I would agree that the market should decide. So the market decides this $50 seat is now $2,000 because somebody will pay it. But then there is this idea of, it's called surge pricing, and the phrase first came up after Uber said during high periods of demand, we're going to charge exorbitantly more for the same trip. It's going to cost you much more to get home on New Year's Eve than it would any other day of the year, that kind of thing.
Okay, and if people still opt to say, okay, yes, I'll take your ride for that, well then.
So I think it's surge pricing. I think it's like, okay, charge more because the market allows you to do it, but not 10 times or 20 times. Or there has to be maybe. I don't know that it would work, Greg. I'm just saying maybe there's some rule that says you can charge more, but not crazy more.
Like I heard someone earlier say that, okay, Doug Ford, when he first came in, said, yeah, we're going to do something about this. And then, or whatever, took it off saying like, yeah, it's not going to be enforceable. And that's really it. How do you enforce it? Like say I'm a season seat holder, okay, and I paid whatever. If all of a sudden I want to just advertise around work or friends and type of things, say, okay, highest bidder can get them kind of thing. Like there's no way to enforce what I'm doing there. It's more just anything that appears maybe online and at least it's advertised at some stupid price. You can maybe zone in on that. But like, I really don't know how you can overall just, enforce someone holding a ticket, not, to sort of somehow catch them and do something about it when, a buyer's, someone's going to buy it or else they don't. And, again, it just does seem unenforceable. So when you hear your, opposition parties, well, they got off easy. All they got to say is like, yeah, here, get enforcing something. But they don't have to come up with a plan how. If they would stop and think, well,
That's right.
If it was us, how do we do this? And I bet you they don't have a clue. It's just another reason to be in opposition. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think there is a real smooth, clear answer as to what is the way to enforce that. And it's just unfortunate.
Thanks for the call, Greg. I agree, but I hope that they don't stop trying. And what if you're a season ticket holder, and so that's a chunk of change anyway. But you have these tickets, so that means you're going to the World Series, and let's say you have good seats, and somebody says those are worth $20,000 right now. I just might take it. I mean. It's like everybody has a price almost, right? I don't know. Bob, go ahead. Bob, you're on the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. Is it Bob? Yeah, there he is. Bob, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
That's okay. I just hope the fans that go to the Dome realize that most of the Blue Jay players are American and don't boo the American anthem. It's not the Americans' fault to have a jackwagon for president. So don't boo the players. Have a good day, Larry.
All right, man. I caught most of that, Bob. Thank you. That's interesting. I never thought of the anthems now because they'll be in most of the games. We don't see the anthems anymore, do we? I mean, we just don't see the anthem. Do they televise the anthems? I don't watch enough sports to know. But I know that in baseball, I usually tune in for all these playoff games fairly early. Well, early for me, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the game, just to catch some of the hype. And I don't recall seeing the anthems. And I wonder if tonight we will see both. Or, gee, I hope nobody boos either anthem. I just don't. Not for this. Not for this. Of course, the whole issue of when's the only time we hear the anthem at sporting events. Really? There's no better time to play the anthem to be patriotic and sing a song for your country than before let's play ball. Right? I don't know. It always fascinated me why the anthem is at sporting events in general. It just seems like, okay, if that's the only time we're ever going to hear it, okay, at least we hear it once in a while. But there's got to be other events. Just play it before work every morning. At every job should. Okay, before we get to work, please stand if you can for okay. I don't know, but that'll be interesting to see the anthems. And yeah, I mean, Bob, as I said, I had a little problem just hearing you, but yeah, a lot of players are American, but that's just by population. I mean, more and more Canadians in major roles on major teams in all sports. Really, the growth in basketball has been directly related to the Raptors coming to Canada or being in Canada. And we just saw the growth of Canadian basketball to the point where we see a lot of Canadian players on a lot of teams playing prominent roles on U.S. teams. Baseball to an extent, yeah. But yeah, it doesn't matter to me. It's where the team, it's a little bit of a false premise, I guess, in that a lot of Americans play for a team that plays in Canada, so we're cheering them as Canada's team. I don't care. Right now, I don't care because it is Canada's team and it's virtually a local team. So let's go Blue Jays. Let's go Blue Jays. Interesting as when I was a kid, I mentioned we were Expos fans, but I was always a Dodger fan because I was fascinated with California and Los Angeles, and I loved their uniform. I still think their uniform is classic. But that was the logic as a kid. I'm a LA fan because I love the uniforms, so I'm going to be an LA fan. And then that dropped off. So it's game one. It's game one tonight. And I do know the feeling. Kyle was talking about it earlier, that feeling. I remember the feeling distinctly. My son and I have been talking about it for the last few weeks of that game we went to together all that time ago. And here we are feeling those feelings again. More of your calls. It's the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. I'm Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. This is 570 News Radio. Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. As excited as I am about the Jays in baseball, and as much as I'm going to enjoy watching it on Rogers Sportsnet, I'm not one of those guys that tunes in 2 to 3 hours before a game, not even a big game. I like watching Super Bowl and things like that, and game 6s and 7s in hockey and basketball, but I'm not going to tune in hours ahead of time. It's just too much. Sports is really good at creating the drama anyway, even if the drama's already there, but just sports is the best at, you tune in, 10 minutes ahead of time, and they're like, I'm playing center field tonight, number 31, who had to swim the Atlantic Ocean with his arms behind his back just to get here as a tribute to his mother they just tell you everything about everybody, and they to the point where you're weeping. It's like, go team, go. It's sports is the best at that. And there's enough hype already there without saying any of it, but they're just going to hype it up. And I don't know if I tuned in at 6 o'clock for pregame stuff, if I could handle it till 8 o'clock. So, but I'll be there at 8. But I've been watching some of the stuff. I mean, I'm nervous as a fan. I was trying to imagine what it's like to be this Trey Savage. He's starting pitcher tonight. It's been repeated so often. He started the season in single A ball, playing in front of 300 people. And now he's pitched in a couple of big games already, but here he is starting game one of the World Series against the defending champion Los Angeles Dollars. Yeah, that's a Freudian slip. It works. Los Angeles Dodgers, and 45,000 people, millions watching around the world, and here he is. And he's handling it pretty well. At least he says, and he seems to be genuine, saying, I'm just trying to make this like, okay, it's another regular game. I know it's not, but I'm going to try and make it as much just another regular game as I can. So I'm pulling for him. But just everything. Interesting to me, I was watching some footage on the news about preparations of the Rogers Center. And they were showing the grounds crew. And, of course, there's the guys with the rakes and the guy driving a little tractor over the dirt, and they're building the pitcher's mound specifically and doing all this stuff. And there's no grass to mow, per se. But one of the things they were doing is, when they tune in, they have those aerial shots of there's the World Series logo and team logos off in front of the dugouts in that space, on the first and third base lines and all that stuff. They were showing those guys basically with stencils and paintbrushes, and on their hands and knees with the paintbrush painting the grass. You have blue, I have red, we're doing white over here, and the World Series logo, they're painting it. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I knew it wasn't a decal, I knew it wasn't digitally put on the screen by the TV people. I knew it was on the field, but I guess it just never, 2 and 2 is what now? I guess I never thought that somebody had to paint that. And watching guys paint grass was fascinating to me. And they got to do it perfectly. You can't You can't. And then there's a little stanchions and some ropes around the freshly wet paint. You can't walk there and all that stuff. Just the prepper and everybody, like ball players, as I've said, the season is 180 some days, and they play 162 games. They're always playing baseball, and some of these guys have done it for years, and years before they were professionals. And so the Blue Jays of this year played, I think it's 171. Anyway, it's over 170 games now the Blue Jays have played. And in some ways, it's got to be, for these guys, another day at the ballpark. This is when I get to the ballpark. This is what I do when I get to the ballpark. This is how much batting practice I take. This is, maybe I have another shower. Maybe I soak in some ice water. This is the way I tape my ankle. This is the way I tie my shoes. This is that little bunk they have in the dugout where their glove and helmets are and stuff. Okay, this is what I'm gonna put a tube of A535 in there and some Voltaren, whatever. And this routine that they've gone through 162 plus times, some of them are just doing that again. But then in their mind, it's like, yeah, but this is also pretty special. Not a lot of guys get here, and we're here. So we got to enjoy that as well. It must be just a fascinating mindset to be in that, daily routine, but yet it's not routine at all, is it, in some ways? So, and everybody's on their game, right? Those guys, those grounds crew guys who've done, some 80 plus home games, but now it's got to be really perfect. Those base paths have to be absolutely pristine. That World Series logo has to look immaculate on TV. Kneeling down with a little paintbrush here. I don't want to go one little edge with blue over the white because then it's not going to look right. Even though it's going to be shot from 600 feet up in the air, there's a guy right now at Rogers Center filling a cooler with beers, making sure he's doing it right and making sure there's enough beers in there. There's probably a guy loading hot dogs into a device somewhere where it's like, okay, I'm going to make this many ahead of time, and then we're going to start another batch, and then we're right. Everybody is on some precision mission to make this the best game, the best hot dog, the best experience we've ever had. And it's all just about 7 hours away. So what a break for me to be able to talk about this on a radio show, filling in for Mike Farwell. Mike, I don't know why you took an extra day off, but thank you. Super enjoyed filling in for you, as I always do. Mike Farwell, 6:30 pregame tonight, Rangers game tonight, and then he'll be back on a Monday. Go Jays, go! I'm Larry Fedoruk, in for Mike Farwell. We will talk soon.